Joe. He's the host of Mock Draft Monday on the Cardinals show. So join the live, hit like and subscribe. Enjoy the podcast tonight. Enjoy the podcast tonight.
What is up, everyone? Happy Legal Tampering Day, the unofficial, not quite beginning, but sort of really kind of functionally the beginning of NFL free agency. And obviously it's been for many Cardinals fans, we'll talk about this, maybe an anticlimactic sort of endeavor. But I am joined by Trent from the Two Birds, One Stone podcast. Trent, folks don't know who you are. Introduce yourself and say hi to the good folks that are hanging out with us.
Yep, I'm pumped to be here, Joe. Like we said, this is a Mock Draft Monday podcast. So my rule of thumb was mock drafts come after free agency. That's when you kind of get a little better idea what's going on. Maybe some needs are met through that avenue. But hey, you asked me to do, all right, I'm coming on today, so I've got one ready for you. But
awesome.
Yeah, host of the Two Birds, One Stone podcast with my brother Garrett. I told you before, we've been doing it for, I guess, about 2 years. Started the Twitter account, I don't know, 3 years ago now at this point. It's been good. I told you before, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri area, so not a lot of Cardinals fans. We like to call ourselves kind of like the original Cardinals fans.
Okay.
We were here before you guys, so you might we're not native Arizonians, but our roots run a little deeper. So that's kind of our bragging point. But yeah, we have a lot of fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We just get on there, kind of shoot the shit about what's going on every week, post games, off season. We do about every other week. We don't like to get on and do episodes when there's not a whole lot to talk about. Now we got free agency going, so probably have another one here in the next couple of weeks, so look out for that. But yeah, excited to get on here and talk with you. I watch a lot of your stuff. You do great things, great following, and for good reasons. So I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to get into all of this stuff. So
well, it's good to have you, and I love getting to connect and meet with other Cardinals fans and content creators. So it's a joy for me to have you on here. And you make a good point. Like free agency changes everything with mock drafts. Like right. I'm such a draft addict that I go ahead, like when the season was over, we went and started around here. But I totally get that. Like what's going to happen in this next week and even the weeks thereafter, it's going to have a significant impact on what those mock drafts and obviously the actual draft looks like. Obviously though, for us doing this Mock Draft Monday has been a great opportunity to learn about players and prospects, which is part of what we do here. So yeah, it's great to have you. Let's get real quick, say hey to some of the folks in the chat. We got CB. This ought to be a good one. Thoughts on free agency so far? We will talk about that in just a moment, CB. So yeah, for sure. Zach gone, right? Zach Allen has gone to Denver with, to reunite with, Vance Joseph. We've got Moore's Legacy. Kelvin is back. He's not,
fans
not
really
excited.
Turned on him in the last couple of weeks.
I mean, and we can talk about that when we get to free agency. There's some interesting thoughts on that for sure. Austin Hoy lives in Kansas City, Missouri, so he's right there with you.
I lived there for a year. We'll be a shameless plug. We'll be there for the draft. So hey, Austin Hoy, maybe we'll run into you there. We're gonna film some content while we're out there. So maybe we'll run into you, Austin.
Awesome. Well, you all should definitely connect. We've got Drew McWhorter. Happy Mock Draft Monday. Everyone, appreciate you being here. We got Eduardo Bernudo, one of our good friends, part of the Cardinals diaspora. Hello, guys. Happy free agency time and Mock Draft Monday. Appreciate you being here. We've got Cruz Aspiro. Hey, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you being here. I hope you got your t-shirt. Zach on what are we doing? We are going to talk about that a little bit. Let's see, Drew McWhorter. All right, personal challenge. I was too negative last week. I will say only positive thoughts tonight. I won't even take some deep breath. Say anything negative about Tyree Wilson. That's you have that.
Well, stay tuned. I hope not. Stay tuned because there might be some more Tyree Wilson talk.
Right. Spoiler alert. We've got David Jimenez. Thanks for being here. What's up, TCR? Man, we're even though it's a slow move right now, we're excited. At least we still need John Michael Schmitz, right? We've got Brian. Clearance aisle's gonna look great on Wednesday. We in the Discord we were talking about this, like making all these analogies to shopping. So yeah, right. Chris, what is up? We got Chris Young, Mock Draft Monday hype. Appreciate you all being here. All right, So let's talk about this a little bit. So, this was the beginning at noon today was the beginning of what they call the legal tampering period. Within the rules of the collective bargaining agreement, agents and front offices or players who don't have representation themselves and front offices can engage in negotiations and come to agreements, but those contracts cannot be formally signed until after 4 p.m. on Wednesday, when the new league year starts. But they did this so that basically if a contract was announced, but the team wants to come back and offer something, a bigger contract, that can happen, although it rarely does. These contracts usually end up being, what ends up being signed. This is for people, this has sort of become the de facto start of free agency. And, as Cardinals fans, last year things were slow. And as the free agency legal tampering period began this year, we felt a little bit like Pablo Escobar, kind of waiting and waiting. And Cardinals fans are, understandably frustrated, and everything with the lack of news. But then some news rolled in, but it wasn't necessarily the most exciting news. Kelvin Beachum resigns. Okay. Starting right tackle. Not, he was the only offensive lineman who started every game last year, but fans
only offensive player that started every game last year.
Right. So that's good. Even though he's an older player, he was the only healthy one, but fans are kind of down on him. And then obviously there was his interview and some of the comments about Kyler Murray that I think have been taken a little out of context, but nonetheless have influenced people's opinions of him. A lot of people are surprised he's back because of that, but he is back. And then, though, the news that most people are kind of have stronger feelings about is Zach Allen, defensive interior lineman, went, to Denver, signed a 3-year, $45.7 million contract. That is big money, $32.5 million guaranteed. That is $15 million a year, roughly. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think more than most people thought. I'm not shocked by it. I thought he'd be getting at least 10 million, closer to 12 or 13 million. And it's not crazy to me to think that a team would, throw that kind of money at him and everything. So Cardinals fans are frustrated, who had been hoping that there'd be more going on. Trent, what are your thoughts on the beginning of free agency so far?
So I mentioned earlier, it's kind of hard. Like the free agency is kind of a teller for the draft, right? And in more ways than one, and in many aspects. In one aspect, it's the obvious. If we go out and sign a guard or a center to big money, odds of us drafting one in the first 3 rounds are slim. But it's also kind of, if you see, in my opinion, what I was kind of preparing myself for was another kind of slow burn. Obviously, 2023 is looking like, with Kyler out for possibly the first half of the whole season, like it might be a retool, rebuild kind of type season. And with them taking it slow, it almost lends to the fact that, all right, we're going to play the draft kind of the same way. We're going to trade back. We're going to accumulate picks. We've got all this cap room, but that doesn't mean you have to spend it. We're going to roll into 2024 all season with the possibility of spending this money, and maybe we hit on some of these picks that we acquire. But the Kelvin Beachum thing was not surprising because any of the Kyler Murray comments. I think a lot of that is drummed up media stuff. Like you said, it seemed like it was taken a little out of context. And I know a lot of people say, Beach, hey, you got his number, similar to the Patrick Peterson situation. And this is all speculation, but I find it hard to believe that Beachum wouldn't have been one of the guys that did say something to Kyler's face. Now, does it mean that he should have also said it on a live radio interview? Probably not. But I think he's got a well enough reputation that he wouldn't do something like that and go public without saying it to Kyler's face first. That's besides the point. The reason why it was a head-scratching move is because you're sitting here. Finally, Josh Jones is playing at his natural position at tackle. He messed around at guard for his second season, maybe his rookie year. He had to be plugged in during injuries. It seemed like he finally had his footing. You've got a young guy, homegrown guy that you picked yourself in the 3rd round, and it seemed like he was finally ready to take on a bigger role, and it lined up perfectly with Beachum leaving in free agency. Instead, they bring him back. What were the specifics on the contract?
For Beachum, I don't think the numbers were disclosed at this point. I can't imagine it's terribly lucrative, but I haven't seen the dollar amounts.
So yeah, that was my only thing. It's like, yeah, he's a good voice in the locker room from what we understand. He's a leader, he's very charitable, good in the community. So it's always good to keep guys like that. But in terms of roster construction and fit and the rebuild that I just kind of mentioned, doesn't seem quite as smart in that sense when you've got a guy that needs to play, and he needs to play a tackle because that's his natural position in Josh Jones. So it's kind of a head scratcher, but with a new regime, you kind of just have to take these things as they come and hope that they know what they're talking about. In terms of Allen, it's too much. It's a lot of money. I'm not going to say too much. He played well, but it's another one of those homegrown guys that you picked, that you developed, and it sucks to see those kind of guys leave, especially when they start to turn a corner and they're starting to produce. And it's the business, but I can't say you do whatever it takes to keep him. Obviously, you can't pay him $20 million a year, but man, it would have been nice to bring him back, especially at a position of need. It's not like if you let Beachum go, you have a Josh Jones to take over. He's gone. You already needed to fill interior defensive line. Now you got to replace Zach Allen on top of that. So it's interesting. We'll see what happens going forward. Another big one is Byron Murphy, who we're going to wait and see about. He'll get big money as well. So it sucks, but it's been slow. Those are all we got to go over. But I'd imagine, what do we got? 33 unrestricted free agents. That's a lot of holes to fill, regardless whether it's big names or not. But yeah, so far pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, it's for fans who were wanting a lot of action, we haven't seen it. And Jackie, thanks for being here, popping in. She's saying hi to both of us. Appreciate you dropping by. But this solidifies we got a ways to go before competitors. And I think fans who are really frustrated right now, I think it's because of where your expectations are. And I don't mean, hey, have really low expectations. I mean, have expectations at what point we are at as an organization. Like, I posted something about this on Twitter. The Cardinals have dug a deep hole as an organization. Steve Keim, Michael Bidwell with Steve Keim with the roster, Michael Bidwell with the facilities, and like free agents, we're going to have to overpay to get people to want to come here right now.
Exactly.
Unless they are people who have some sort of tie and are willing to play for less here, which are going to be very few and far between. So like you could try to overpay for Zach Allen or a free agent from another team, right? But like this roster isn't at a point where they're close enough to winning that makes sense. You have to be smart. You have to nail the draft, make value free agent signings, and expect it's going to be a little rough. Like, Cardinals fans were clamoring last year for Vance Joseph to play the rookies, right? And he eventually played them some, but not enough. And we complained about all the aging free agents, but now we're complaining that there's not enough free agents. Like, this is the first year, sort of a reset, retool, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. There's certain positions I think where they're not going to do a lot to change, but they need to overhaul the offensive line and defensive line, right? They need to do that. And
you need bodies at the bare minimum at those positions. So.
Right. You need more. And we are not one or two free agents away from competing right now. So what you have to do is you have to take your lumps and take a foundation first building approach, which is the draft. Emphasize the draft. And the free agents you sign are not $15 million a year guys right now. They need to be $3 million a year, $5 million a year guys who are bridges to the guys you're drafting. And you have to anticipate that we're going to, 2023 is going to be a down year, and your best case scenario is that you're chippy, right? That you're a team that's a little frisky, like the Lions were with the first year of their rebuild, but still not winning. But you build that foundation, and then a couple of years from now, maybe you pay a little bit for a free agent when you're a player away. But like, I'm not stressed out by this, and I think people expect they're going to win this year, and they're just not there, so I think that's part of it. So, Jordan P. Yeah, Zach Allen we weren't going to pay Zach Allen that much. And I love Zach Allen as a player, but I agree with the decision not to pay that much for one player. Dante's saying, hello, fellas and ladies. Does this mean we bring back Byron Murphy? I don't know that like this means specifically we do. I think they're going to try, but I think with Byron, it is also going to be a matter of the money, right?
He's going to get more than that. I have a feeling he's going to get more, and
He might.
it's the same situation. It's a position of need already, even if you bring Byron back. So it's only going to hurt worse whenever he goes and gets a bag from whoever. So I I don't really see it happening. I think he's going to, but
Yeah.
that's just a gut feeling that I've got.
I think it's 50-50 because there was a cornerback, I forget his name, who signed for about $11 million a year.
With the Patriots, they
I'm
re-signed.
not sure. I know they signed Josh Jones, but there was someone else. I'm not sure if it was him or not. But we'll see what the corner, because I think the cornerback market isn't as robust as a defensive line market right now. We'll see though, right? Okay. Dean from Tampa Bay only getting 13 million, right? 16 was exaggerated, right? Yeah, Dean with Tampa, right? So yeah, and I agree with this. Give me cheap corners who are young and a few veterans. Like with the cornerback, there's some interesting analytics that talk about like weak link positions, meaning the positions where the most important thing is not how good is your best player, but how bad is your worst player.
Right.
In coverage, you don't want a weak link. So you're better off having like 3 or 4 guys that are good versus one stud and, a guy who's not good. Right. So, so like, I'm not stressing out about this approach. Right. I think I know fans don't want to hear this, but you got to preach patience. You've got to build through the draft. You got to dig yourself out of this hole that we've got for the roster, and just throwing money at high price free agents isn't get us there.
I just think at the least it's them kind of showing their hand a little bit of what their plan is, and that is a full on rebuild. That's going to be a slow build, and it sucks. It's going to suck for the next year, maybe 2, while we're retooling and doing this thing. But we got a whole fresh set of eyes on this thing, and you've got to trust that those guys will bring in a plan that works and fixes it, no matter how long it takes. Hopefully not too long, but that's kind of just where we're at right now. Thanks, Steve Kahn.
Yeah, right. I create for my last video. I got a little sort of image. It's your roster just got kimed, right? He drafted a bunch of inside linebackers and 5'7" receivers, right? Simon, saying, maybe we will take the approach like the Texans did first year when GM and former Pats exec Nick Cassera took over. He filled the roster with depth guys first. I mean, I think that's probably what we're looking at, filling the depth and the breadth of the roster and not going with the big names. And if you look, that's how the Patriots build their roster. They don't go chasing big free agents. They build through the draft. And personally, I think that's the smart way to do it. It's not flashy. And for fans who want the big pickups, it's not going to give you the sugar rush that you want there. But it's your vegetables, eating your vegetables. It's the right way to do it, and it's going to take a little bit of time. Right. So yeah, I want to get to some of the other comments in here, say hey to some of the folks that are in here as well. And yeah, Austin saying seems like an insurance policy in case Jones doesn't work at right tackle in terms of Beachum. And, and Jordan saying on the topic of Beachum, really think we need to trade DJ and let Josh play left tackle, go full rebuild after letting Zach walk and D-Hop leaving soon. And, I think that's an interesting thought because like with Josh Jones, this is the question. He played like a starting level left tackle, like graded really well. And he's a guy that they're going to, his rookie deal is up this year, next year. He doesn't have much left on his rookie deal, and they're going to have to make a decision about him. So the question is, okay, you've got DJ Humphries on this big contract, but he's an older player. Do you trade the older player? It's not going to save you much in terms of cap. It's more about getting some draft picks and then more going with the younger player. Do you do that and then build around Josh Jones because he's younger and then bring in a right tackle to develop? Or do you, play Josh Jones at left guard? And, a lot of people are saying, well, they played him at guard before and it didn't work. They played him at right tackle, didn't work. When they played him at guard, they played him at right guard. So there is this question that, like, for me is the big question about Josh Jones. Is the problem that when they moved him to right guard, he struggled? Is the problem that he struggled playing guard, or was the problem that he struggled playing on the right side of the line?
Right.
They haven't really played him at left guard. So like and we don't know this until we see, but like he played
when's the
well.
last time he's had meaningful snaps at guard? Has it been a year or two?
It was 2 seasons ago, but the key thing here is like, 2 seasons ago he was a starting right guard for much of the season,
Right.
graded in the 50s, right? And then when he played at right tackle, he struggled. So a lot of people say, okay, well, he needs to be left tackle because he can't play guard and he can't play right tackle. But the question is, we haven't played him at left guard, really. So the question that for me is like, okay, is the problem he can't play guard, or is the problem he struggles on the right side, right guard, right tackle? Do you see what I'm saying? So and Justin
probably find out if they were bringing Beacham back.
Yeah, Drew mentioned this in the chat that Justin Pugh said that he would start Josh Jones at left guard, right?
Okay, he sees him every day, so
yeah. So I don't know good. Sorry.
With Humphreys, it's I was all for it before he restructured his deal. If he wouldn't have cut back, what did he converted to a signing bonus? Then I think you explore that option and you roll with Jones at tackle. But I would say just off of who I would rather start at left tackle if there's a game tomorrow, I'd go with DJ Humphreys. I think he's a longer proven track record. And the fact that he was able to rework his deal, save us some money. Now it's not a liability. Now you're not overpaying for somebody where it's not a huge upgrade over Josh Jones. Now he's making a lower salary and you're going to roll with the better player. But we'll find out soon if he works at guard or not. But yeah, it's interesting the way that all played out.
The one thing I hope that does not happen is that Josh Jones gets back on the bench and he ends up being a backup, and then he walks away and signs somewhere else, and we didn't get anything from him. Right. And I mean, if he's not going to play, maybe trade him. I mean, if he walks away, that could yield us a compensatory pick depending on but that also depends on whether we're signing anyone or not that year. So that whole system's kind of weird. So lot of questions here. Let me say hey to some of the other folks that are in here as well. Chris R, thanks for being here. Gonna miss Alan. He's set for a breakout. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be good there, but again, it's the price, right?
I tweeted out, just be mentally prepared for him to just wreck games in the postseason under Sean Payton and Vance Joseph. Just mentally prepare yourself for that pain, a la Hassan Reddick. It's coming, and just accept it ahead of time. It'll make it easier.
I mean, we just got to be prepared for it, and then maybe it'll take some of the sting away from that. We got Ben Cork. I believe Ben's up in Canada, a Cardinals fan up there. Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's too much money, missing noticeable time each year, and
that's a good point.
I feel that, and I like Zach Allen. He's a really good player, but that's a lot of money. Air Noobs, I'm glad I made it this one. Love the show. Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad you made it as well. Let's see. We got Randy Morse. Thanks for being here. I'm not worried. Let the process play out. Let's go, Bird Gang. That's where I'm at. There we go, Randy. Yeah, for sure. Oh, you know Randy?
I don't know Randy, but I like the mindset. I like the positive. Nice to meet you, Randy. Love the positive mindset. Right.
Let's see. And then we got Grandizer. Thanks for being here. Grandizer is a great dude who always holds down the chat and shares out our links. So thanks for being here. Appreciate you immensely. Let's see who else. Let's see if there's anyone here. Okay, so Cruz is saying, how will we get anywhere when we have our players paying for lunch, right?
That's stuck. Also a fair point. We are stuck.
Like
that is so tough, Joe. I don't know. I didn't hear what your thoughts were on that whole NFLPA grading system and all that. It just confirmed all of those nasty rumors that we had heard that Mr. B was a penny pincher, and that's nothing you want to hear from a billionaire owner, that he's not treating his players the way they need to be treated.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad look. I don't expect the Cardinals to be at the front of the class on that one, the top of the grades, because their ownership group is not bankrolled by Walmart or whoever else.
Yeah.
But you got to regress to the middle, right? You've got to just at least get to where you're average. We wrote an article on azsportsunderground.com, plug for that.
That's right.
Me and a couple of the other co-writers put together a collaborative article, and I wrote a little bit about this. And I think it's the kind of public pressure that's going to lead Michael to make some changes. He responds to stuff like this. When there is bad press, he responds. Sometimes he makes changes. Sometimes he pushes back. but he tried pushing back and that didn't go very far. And I think there will be some changes. They might be half measures, but there's going to be something. I would be surprised if the meals don't change. That one was the one that really.
I liked what Gannon had to say about it. He was like, you know what, I wasn't here for that. I'm looking at what's the future, and we're gonna figure those kind of things out while I'm here. I'm not really worried about the past. I wasn't in the building, so I kind of like that. He's like, I don't really care at all what they had going on before I got here. It's just I'll fix. It had the vibe of I'll make it right, and I hope he does. We'll see what happens.
I hope so too, for sure. Randrak saying at least we're getting comp picks right. So, the compensatory pick system it's a little complicated, but it's not that complicated. It's going to depend on who we do or don't sign and who we lose, right? Because what they do is they take all the players that a team where I got to get on camera, list all the players that you've signed, like in a list, right? And then they list all the players that have gone away, right? And like the players you lose and the players you gain before the draft. That has to be during the free agency period that comes before the draft. And they look at how much their contract is for and a few other things. And they line it up. And if you have like a player who's good that you sign and a player that's good that you lose, they sort of cross each other out, right? And so there's no pick. And the list kind of works its way that way. So last year we lost Chase Edmonds. That got us a 3rd round pick. We lost Chandler Jones. There's a rule about players that have been in the league for a certain period of time that caps their compensatory pick at a 5th rounder. So we got a 5th round for him. I'm sorry, it was Christian Kirk was a 3rd rounder. Chandler Jones was the 5th rounder. And then we got a 6th round pick for losing Chase Edmonds. But we got those picks because we didn't sign anyone during free agency that would offset them. The players we signed were either below the contract amount that matters for that, or they were after the draft. So that's the long answer. The short answer is it depends on who. If we sign someone who's making $15 million a year or close to that, then we're not going to get a comp pick. But if we don't sign someone, I think there's a good chance we get like a 3rd round pick for Zach Allen, or maybe a 4th round pick. Let's see, a couple other folks I think jumped in here. Rob Moore, thanks for being here. Good evening, gents. How many are shrinking from depression tonight? I'm sure there are some, right? Yeah, I'm not. I'm doing okay. But Gannonball, thanks for being here. There you go, Coach. I got my water. Gannonball, thanks for being here. LOL, right, Drew? Kime is a 4-letter word around here, literally, but you know what I mean. 100% Kime he's persona non grata around here.
Hope he's doing well, getting the help he needs.
Yes, absolutely. Keith Davis, thanks for being here. Sounds like we're going to be basement dwellers for a couple of years. People are finally admitting this is a full-on rebuild. I mean, at least 1 year. I think like the model that I look at is like, look at what with the Lions. First year was a rebuild. It was rough. This last season was year 2, and they were pushing for a playoff spot, but didn't quite make it. And then year 3, people are expecting they're going to have a good chance at the playoffs. Yeah. And that's kind of the rebuild trajectory you look at. As year 1, anything you win is gravy. Year 2, you want to be pushing for a playoff spot and have a chance. But if you don't make it, as long as you've shown progress, that's good. Year 3 playoffs. What are your thoughts on that, Trent?
The Rams will be competing hard for the basement dweller crown. Okay, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. That's not something that's going to be given to us. We're going to have to earn it. They are screwed. They went all in for that Super Bowl. Good for them. They got it, but their roster is just gutted. But yeah, I agree. It's just going to be – I like the Lions' approach. I was a fan of Dan Campbell more from an outside perspective, especially at the beginning. I wasn't sure how I would feel if it was my head coach at the beginning, the whole bite kneecaps and all that stuff, hard knocks and all that. But he's proven himself. The players love him. Mm-hmm. And John Gannon kind of has a similar feel like that, kind of unorthodox, maybe does some things that might sound a little quirky or weird, but the players buy in. I know they did in Philly. We'll see if he can make it translate here.
Right, for sure. Want to say hey to a few other folks before we move on. Calicut, thanks for being here. Stadium's going to be empty next year. I mean, it's going to be hard to sell tickets. Yeah, probably. I think we got a few other folks that have dropped in. Cali kid, thanks. Oh, same. Rip off the Jags fans and wear clown masks to the games. Right. Micah Onak, bring back Calais Campbell. He was released by the Ravens. What are your thoughts on Campbell in terms of bringing him back? Obviously, we all love him here in the Red Sea.
Oh, well,
in terms of bringing him back.
It's a two ways of thinking of it. I'm a diehard Cardinals fan. I grew up watching him, obviously the 08 run, and he was a stud, built a Hall of Fame career, but it doesn't really line up with what we're going with here. You'd think that they'd like to go young in that aspect. It would kind of remind me of bringing Kelvin Beachum in. It didn't really fit with the plan, but they did it anyway. But if we're going to be suffering through a possible another 4-win season, I'd like to watch Calais Campbell on the field in 93 red again. So sign me up for it. Depends on the compensation, of course. But like I said, I don't know if it exactly fits what this rebuild vision is going to look like, but it would be awesome to see.
I'd love to see him back. I just would be surprised if it happens. He seems like a guy who's going to look for a team to contend with.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I love Calais Campbell, right? Cruz asking, do you think Bidwell will ever sell this team? No, it's been in the family since they take a lot of pride in this organization being in that family for a long time. So like it or not, right? Don't see that happening. Buzz W, thanks for being here. Hate to see him go, but now we're keeping him on our timeline at that price. I generally agree. Asian 47, thanks for being here. I was taking a nap and this all happened. Yeah, I hear you, right? Luke Stevens, sign guys who are cut via free agents. And that's an important thing to know as well. And that's Luke's hitting on something with the compensatory system. If that compensatory picks only are based on a certain category of free agents they call compensatory free agents. And to be a compensatory free agent, it has to be signed between the beginning of free agency and the draft, right? And it has to be someone whose contract had expired. Players who were cut or waived do not count towards compensatory picks. So if there's someone who was cut or waived, you can sign them and it doesn't affect that. So if there's guys that we can sign who were released rather than guys like, Allen's situation where his contract expired, that doesn't count against that.
Smart guy, Luke Stevens. There you go. That's something I looked into that last year a little bit more and became more familiar with the rules. So and that's why part of the reason teams like the Ravens and the Patriots don't go crazy in free agency, because they work that compensatory system. Want to say hey to everyone real quick. JP, thanks for being here. Getting Beach back was unexpected. I agree. I was a little surprised by that. Doc's Cards, thanks for being here. Patrick Peterson to Pittsburgh. We saw that, so that's interesting. The full villain arc has been completed. That's what I seen that tweet. I was like, that. Yep, he knew where to go. That would hurt us the most if we've seen them succeed. So, hats off to you, man. Pat. You did it.
Yeah, your troll job is complete. Right. We got Teo Capero. Thanks for being here. What's up, Joe? Sorry I'm a bit late. Well, we appreciate you being here either way. Oh, and JP, thank you. Today is my birthday, but I'm here
happy
with you all
birthday, Joe.
Thank you. I've got my kids got me cards. And if you see right there, there's a little birthday hat on top of my Cardinals.
That is a nice touch.
Yeah, so it is my birthday. I'm 48 years old, and and I'm glad to be here hanging out with you guys on this. So, yes. So thank you. Let's see if there's anyone else that we didn't. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys all being here, celebrating my birthday with me on Mock Draft Monday. Okay. All right, we're 30 minutes in and we haven't even got to mock drafts, but thank you everyone. I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys all. Thank you. So there's a lot more to be said with free agency. We could spend a whole hour talking about this, but we want to get to the mock draft stuff. There'll be more content on free agency as there's more free agency. So
right.
Let's get into the draft stuff though. Sorry, what comes first? Joseph shaving his beard on a regular basis with a Bidwell selling the team. Definitely me shaving my beard would come before that, right? So, yeah. All right. So let's get to a player profile. So, every week I try to profile player to help the folks in our community learn more about the draft prospects so that when we watch the draft, come April, we know who these players are and we're familiar. And I tend to emphasize players who are going to be picked in day 2 and day 3, because we're all going to hear so much about those first round prospects. And I went with a player today that I know a lot of people have been putting in their mock drafts lately. And I profiled this player because I wanted to learn more about this player myself. I hadn't really looked into them much. So the player we're profiling this week is wide receiver Puka Nakua. But before I get it, wow, Cruz, thank you for the very generous, birthday. Thank you so much. Cruz is a channel member, a supporter of the channel, a great dude. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you so much. Thank you. Puka Nakua is a receiver from BYU. And he's 22 years old. He's a senior. He's 6'2", 201 pounds, and he is a day 3 prospect is what's projected. Potentially late day 3, depending, but you never know. Sometimes someone, people end up liking a player and they move up. And I know Jordan Pe's a big fan. He's underrated, smooth route runner for being 6'2", right? So when you look at his PFF grades, they're as most prospects we're going to look at they're really good. 89.8 last year. He didn't have a lot of volume, 48 receptions, 625 yards, but his grades are good across the board. Real quick, Drew McWhirter, thank you, Drew. I appreciate your generosity as well, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Go treat yourself to a steak dinner after this show.
I'm telling you,
hey guys, my birthday's in a couple weeks. Just FYI.
There you go. For Trent's birthday, please subscribe to Two Birds, One Stone.
Absolutely,
podcast.
That's way easier than $20.
It's
just
free.
A click of a button.
Yeah. But thank you, everyone. Seriously, I appreciate that sincerely. Thank you. So Puka, graded pretty well. He's big, and when you look at his profile, in his draft profiles, a couple of things. He's not super fast. He doesn't have a breakaway speed. He is athletic, and I did watch some of his highlights and read some of the scouting profiles just to get a sense of what he is. And they used him a lot in jet sweeps at BYU, and he was actually surprisingly effective for being a guy who's not super fast. He's he's reasonable speed, but not a burner. But he's pretty good with the ball in his hands. He's not like Rondale Moore, joystick gadget guy with the ball in his hands, but he's got a little bit to him in terms of his ability to move. So he's decent with the ball in his hand, but I'll tell you, he's more of a sort of a possession receiver, is more his best route, or his best role. And when I watch his film, and again, I get this is college competition. What it reminded me of, some of the catches he was making, contested catches down the field, moving the chains, reminded me a little bit of what we saw out of AJ Green with the Cardinals. Not prime AJ Green, but AJ Green when he lost a step, but could still go up for those contested catches and made those big boy contested catches down the field for us. He wasn't, by any stretch of the imagination, a great player for us, but he made some of those nice throws. And if Nakua could be that kind of guy, right, as a day 3 pick, someone you get somewhere between rounds 5 and 7, for example, if he can be that little bit bigger guy who can make those contested catches, go up those 50-50 balls, and, he's maybe a 4th receiver on the depth chart. If we could get that out of him, that would be a really nice win there in the draft. Let me get to some of the comments that folks are saying about him. I know Jordan's looked at him a lot. Nakua was used as a runner as well. He had a good amount of rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. Also, he trains with former NFL receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh. That's interesting. Tio saying, would Amon-Ra St. Brown be a decent comp in size and speed? Probably. Amon-Ra is, really good player.
I'd take Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
I'd be good with that.
I think it'd be premature to say that's who he's going to be as good as, but that's probably a good play style comp, right?
Do you know what around his the 40 time is? Around
I
4,
don't
5,
because he
4,
wasn't at the
6?
combine.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to wait and see at his pro day numbers, right? So I'll be really intrigued. That could really, right, be interesting. Drew's saying that his comp is a slightly faster Alec Pierce, who we really liked, right?
It fits around where you had him, about fourth guy on the chart, depth chart. It's the 6'2",
Yeah.
201 that's appealing to me.
Right. Rashad Higgins 2.0. So listen, I don't know if he's that good. We'll see. Again, playing at BYU, the competition level isn't as good as SEC, but I liked what I saw, right? Yeah, and yeah, I totally get that. You didn't mean in terms of how good, but physicals, yeah, that's the play style comp, I think, a reasonable one. So, the Cardinals, let's see, and then Jordan P saying he'd be slower than Pierce. Yeah, Pierce was really fast. So I think, yeah, he's not as fast as Pierce, but, getting a big body depth receiver on day 3, especially if we trade away. He was at the combine. He didn't run the 40. Okay. So there were really no drills. He did the field drills, but none of the testing stuff. Okay. So I looked for his relative athletic score, and there was nothing other than his height and weight there. So we'll have to wait for the pro day. So, if they're going to trade away Hopkins, they're going to need a couple receivers potentially. I don't see them going early for receiver because there's other bigger needs. So I've been looking at guys on day 3. So Nakua would be a guy that I think would be an interesting guy to look at on day 3 for a developmental bigger receiver. What are your thoughts in terms of whether you have familiarity with Puka Nakua, or your thoughts in general on terms of receiver for the Cardinals in the draft?
Yeah, and I wasn't familiar with Puka before now, but I do. In almost every mock I've had him taken at least one. Probably not more than that, just because there's so many other levels of need. But I do, like I said, I like the 6'2", 201 in a room where Marquise Brown is the biggest wideout. I guess, is Antoine Wesley still on the roster? I think, right?
I don't know if he's a free agent or not. I think he might be a free agent.
I'm not sure either.
But yeah.
But if he's not, you're looking at an average height in that room of like 5'9". So you need the, like, it's funny people talk about that. Well, okay, there's 3 receivers on a field, maybe in a certain formation or whatever, and really it's 3 different positions. Your X, your Y, your Z. A lot of times you can get away with those smaller guys in the middle in the slot, maybe one on the outside, but a guy on the outside, thanks Elite Flight, Wesley is a free agent. A guy on the outside like that, you would need a little bit of size, and I think that's something that they need to target, whether it's free agency or in the draft at some point. I think right now that I'm thinking about who I took in the mock, and he is definitely undersized, so I'm going to contradict everything that I just said, but I'll explain why I took him later.
Yeah,
but yeah, size is definitely going to be big, and I guess I'll look out for his pro day. We'll check out that 40 time. Anything for low 4.6, let's ride with Puka then.
Yeah, for a guy his size, right. If he doesn't have to be blazing fast. There's a profile for him as like a big slot and maybe someone to get 50-50 balls on the outside.
Yeah.
And it's also, the Cardinals are going to probably run less 10 personnel than they did previously, 4 wide receiver sets. You're going to see more tight end involved, more tight ends involved, more bigger sets. So I think receiver isn't going to be emphasized as much as it was before, but we still need some depth. So yeah. And Tio saying A.T. Perry is the receiver I want in this draft class more than any other receiver. I think he's going on day 2. He had a good 40-yard dash time for his size, under 4.5, 4.47 for his size is really good. So I think he's going round 3 or maybe round 2. But yeah, if he goes too early, I like the upside of Nakua, right? Yeah, and Jordan P, I agree with you. Like the receiver draft class is viewed as not as good. It's not as good as last year. Last year was a really good draft class for receivers. So at the top end of the draft, it's not as good, but there's some guys further down the line that I like. So a year like this is a year where I think I'd rather, instead of trying to go a receiver earlier, get one of these mid-round guys. So I agree with that. VB, thanks for being here. Great to catch the episode live. Keep up the good format. Greetings from Germany. Appreciate you. Part of the Cardinals diaspora, our Cardinals fans all around the world. We got folks from Germany. We got folks from Canada, Brazil, Argentina. Appreciate you all being here. And then Missouri as well. So yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on to now the mock drafts, though, or Trent's mock draft. So you kind of talked a little bit you kind of I gave a little bit of a
teasers.
spoiler.
Couple teasers
That's the
relayed.
word.
Here you go, Joe.
foreshadowed.
This is my birthday gift to you. I'm gonna fix the Arizona Cardinals. Are you ready?
Yes. Oh, I'll take it, man. All right. Here we go. Here's your draft. Tell us what you were thinking.
Okay. So you can't see the rest of the top 10 before this. So this isn't counting the Panthers moving up to 1. It goes Bryce Young 1 to the Panthers. CJ Stroud goes 2. So now we're sitting there at 3. Will Anderson on the board. Jalen Carter. You can move back. All these options. Something that I don't know if it's quite as likely, but it's certainly plausible. The Lions know the only team ahead of them to keep them from getting one of these possibly generational players, and Carter, Will Anderson, is going to be Seattle. So instead of one of these quarterback needy teams moving up to 3, they actually jump up, pull the trigger. They give us pick 55 in this year's draft, second rounder, and next year's 1 in 2024 to move up 3 spots to third overall. They end up taking Will Anderson. The Colts take Will Levis at 4. Seattle lands Jalen Carter at 5. When I initially moved back to 6, I'm thinking, okay, Jalen Carter is probably going to be there. I'll pick up a first rounder next year and still land one of these 2 defenders. Jalen Carter's gone. So instead, I move back again with Atlanta, who Anthony Richardson in this situation is still on the board. Odds are it's going to be one of the quarterbacks. It'll probably be Levis. But the Falcons move up from 8 to 6. We pick up another first rounder next year and move back 2 spots. Luckily, Tyree Wilson's still on the board. And I don't remember who was against Tyree Wilson, but a guy that a lot of people think there he is, Jordan P. A guy
There's
a lot of some people
in TCR land that aren't big fans of Tyree. So.
You know what I think that's more about, and it's more about Tyree versus Will Anderson than it is about Tyree himself. So call me out if I'm wrong, Jordan P., but that's going to be my opinion looking from the outside. Tyree Wilson is a guy that knowledgeable guys around the NFL have that the Cardinals would consider taking at 3rd overall. So to get him down at 8 while picking up an extra second, while getting 2 firsts next year, I'm going to take that every day. He was a 3-year starter at Texas Tech University. I think he had his breakout year in 2021, 13.5 sacks. 2022, he plays 10 games, injures his foot, misses the rest of the season. I think that might have been one of those situations where, hey, I'm going to the draft next year. We're not going to kind of push this thing. Maybe we'll just sit on the bench and let my draft stock not get injured. Anyway, he gets still accounted for 14 tackles for loss with 7 sacks. But he reminds you a lot. He's got a freak wingspan. He reminds you a lot of Chandler Jones, really, in that aspect, because he can get you on the bend, all around the edge. He's got a bunch of good moves. He's good with his hands. One thing, he's athletic enough to where he's shown on tape that he's good. He can excel against the run. It's just he needs to add a little bit more weight and maybe develop a little more instincts at the next level. But that's something that he can improve on, something in the run game. But pass rush is one of the biggest problems that we have on this team. I thought even going into last year, it was shocking that we're just going to roll out Marcus Golden and Dennis Gardeck. Those are our 2 pass rushers. That to me was insane. And Tyree Wilson can step in right away. Marcus Golden has been cut. He can step in right away and be a day 1 starter. So what do you think about that, Joe? The haul that we got and the pick at 8.
So, okay. I think that for the trades, I think you might have been able to get a little bit more, especially that first trade. Maybe another pick on day 3 or another future pick. Maybe a little bit, when you're trading back in those top spots, but I don't think it's egregious. I mean, getting a future first in both those is nice. I love
that's
that. Right?
The heavyweight. That's especially in these simulators, those ones hold so much value. I probably offered a 4 before that, trying to get a 3 or 4 or whatever, but that's what it ended up taking.
Yeah.
But that one, it's gold to these teams, and well, this is a simulator, but future first rounders is like a lottery ticket to these owners and general managers. So I could see how, especially with the Falcons just moving back 2 spots, I could see how that is the return that would net. So I wasn't unhappy with
reasonable.
that. Yeah.
I would say with me just kind of comment on that. And there's a few comments in here. He gets a lot of comparisons to Marcus Davenport. Just got a 1 year, $13 million free agency deal. Robert Moore doesn't like that. Thumbs down to Tyree Wilson. Too many edges. Dell is short. Everything else is fine.
Hey, we're gonna get to Dell, Robert. Don't worry. I'll pound the table for him.
Jordan P says Tyree is so slow off the snap and is so raw when you watch his tape. He doesn't even have a position that he's an edge ideal hybrid. Like for me, I do like Wilson more than I think most people in TCR land, but I think it's because he is a project. Like he's a guy who needs to develop some, but he has that length is rare, and with a guy like that, you can do some things with him, but he's not ready to contribute like someone like Anderson is. So by comparison, absolutely, I don't mind him if we trade back. Getting Wilson at pick 8, I don't hate that.
That's the caveat. That's the caveat. And I'll be honest, it was between him and Christian Gonzalez. And I think if I were to do this 10 times, it would probably be 5 and 5 on if I were to take Gonzalez there or Wilson there. But like I said, pass rusher is such a premium position. And if you can hit on him and that raw ability does show through and you're able to land him at 8, not 3, not 6, but all the way back at 8 while getting that draft capital, sign me up for that. Sorry, everybody, if they disagree. That's just my
hey, that's what we do around here. So it's okay. Yeah.
Next up, we got Emmanuel Forbes, who had an amazing combine, extremely athletic. He might push himself up into near the first round due to that. Ran a 4.35, 37.5-inch vertical. He had 14 career interceptions at Mississippi State, and 6 were returned for touchdowns. So he's very athletic. He's a playmaker, ball hawk. He's 6'1", but he's only 166, so kind of a smaller frame. Nothing a couple years in the weight room can't fix. So we'll get that worked on. But that's something you add weight, and then you can help out a little bit more in the run game, which I don't know if he grades out well there, but just an instinctive. He's a lighter frame, but he's physical at the line with bigger receivers. Thank you, Robert. Glad you like the pick. But like I said earlier, I think the writing on the wall is that Murphy will probably be gone. And that leaves huge holes at edge, which we've addressed with Tyree Wilson. Now you go out and grab Emmanuel Forbes, who might be a little raw himself, might need some work, add on weight, like I said. But 2 guys that give you a lot of ability and high upside early on. And then as you see later on, we add another edge in another corner to just fill bodies. Like I said earlier, you got to take shots. You got to the draft is such a crapshoot. At some point, you're throwing darts. You do all the research you can, but there's nothing set in stone that this guy is going to be this and this guy's going to be that. So that's a huge part of it, is getting bodies. So I love getting Emmanuel Forbes there. Luke Whippler, center, Ohio State. Obviously, Rodney Hudson is, I believe, gone. Has there been official news on that?
Okay. Yeah, one way or the other, he's gone.
He's out of here. And so help me God if Max Garcia rolls out there and plays center to start the 2023 season. We're going to roll with Luke Whippler out of Ohio State. He's a 2-year starter. 6'3", 303, which is a little smaller on the smaller side for a center, but he makes up for that with athleticism. He was the highest graded center athleticism score at the combine. And he's a very intelligent. He was what was it, player interviews or in his profile? He excelled at calling out defensive sets, snaps at the line, best friend to the quarterback. He's got a great football mind. So that you love to get as a center. It's kind of your second quarterback out there. So I like getting Luke Whippler there. I know John Michael Schmitz, guys. It's not talking about John Michael Schmitz, but it is Luke Whippler, and I like his value there. There you go, Robert. I love checking. We don't have this on Two Birds, One Stone with the live chat. I love seeing what people see right away. We might have to implement that. But like I said, after in round 3, pick 66, we get Nick Herbig, edge, Wisconsin. Wilson, I believe, is a stud. But like I said, you need bodies. You need more than one pass rusher at this point. You're hoping Cam Thomas and Najee Sanders can develop. But I'm going to go ahead and throw as many darts as I said earlier. He was a 3-year starter at Wisconsin. He played outside backer in a 3-4 defense. He's also slightly undersized at 227. again, weight room is key. Add a little bit more
Mhm.
weight to that frame.
Buddy
9 sacks in
Morris.
21. Exactly. 9 sacks in 21, 11 in 22. I thought this was an interesting stat. 26% of his total career tackles went for a loss in his career. So he's consistently in the backfield. He's got a good motor. So I like getting him there in the mid rounds. Now we're to the polarizing Nathaniel Dell, who I actually came across while watching Clayton Tune highlights. I didn't draft him in this one, but I think Houston quarterback, I think that would be a solid addition in like round 6. See what we can get out of maybe a possible future backup quarterback. But anyway, every single one of those highlights, it seemed like he was on the end of each pass. 17 touchdowns. He caught 108 passes last year. He is only 5'8", which is a knock. And I didn't even know that when I drafted him in this mock. I just saw the production. But stick with me. He's great at creating separation. He's a very good return specialist. He runs in the 4.4s. And he was the team captain at Houston last year. So good in the locker room. He's versatile. He can help you out in teams. And it's round 4. So you're looking for guys that can not only produce on offense and defense, but to fill holes on teams as well.
I want to jump in real quick on Nathaniel Dell. Like I've kind of commented, we're looking for taller receivers. I'm warming up to him a little bit because he's fast, although weirdly, I expected him to be faster at the combine than he was.
But I think it's 4.49.
Yeah, and I actually, for guys his size, I expected him to be, and what his profile, I thought he'd be in the 4.3s. But it's also possible that wasn't his best time.
Right.
The tape seems to show he's fast. But I saw something that I thought was really interesting. I saw just a video clip of him at the line and just kind of him doing his move to beat press, right? When you're a big guy, you can beat press by being stronger. When you're a little guy, you have to beat press the way Antonio Brown always did, right? With footwork and speed and shiftiness. And I saw his move off the line to beat press, and my jaw dropped. Just the way he moved, it was just faked out the defensive back. So that was impressive to me. So I think he's an interesting player. Drew saying Nathaniel Dell may be the best route runner in this draft. I don't think he's that controversial. I find Tomlinson more controversial for his size.
I skipped him on accident.
Yeah. So
I think that's one that you probably broke down plenty of times. If you want to talk about him, you can. 3rd round pick. Late in the corner, 3rd round, I think adding in another corner, like I said, bodies is important, and I think there's good value that late. I actually forgot to even put his profile on my phone, so if you want to talk about him, you can. Has he been any of your mocks before this?
Tomlinson?
Yes.
Or I haven't profiled him. I just, he's a little bit smaller, good slot corner. I like getting him as a slot corner.
Okay. Yeah, 5'8", 178, so pretty small, but he ran a 4.41, broad jump 11 feet. I forgot to put his profile in my notes. That's my mistake. But
yeah.
Good athletic profile, but yeah, size can be a problem starting in the nickel. Strengths, one of the more explosive athletes in the draft, twitchy, agile, allowed 34.6% completion rate when targeted in 2022. That's pretty good ball instincts. Sudden feet allow him to stride and shade. I'm not going to read all of this PFF grade, but yeah, you get the point. I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with Tomlinson. I think him in this point in the draft, you see him every time when you're doing your mock draft simulator. He's the highest rated corner at this spot in the draft. Like I said, bodies, and a lot of this is hoping for the upside to click, and I think that's a lot of what the draft is for everybody anyway. But that brings us to the trade that everyone's been anticipating all offseason. The DeAndre Hopkins era comes to an end with the Cardinals. We send him to Denver to unite with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. We get a 4th rounder this year, a 5th rounder in 2024, and we get former 1st round pick Jerry Jeudy back in return. Jeudy 6'1". I think he steps in and immediately becomes your 1B behind Marquise Brown. It's been in the storyline all offseason. I think his compensation, I feel like, has swayed back and forth so much on what Hopkins is worth. I'm foregoing. Okay, I'm not going to even beg for a second. I don't think we're going to be able to get that. I seen A couple had maybe the Chiefs, Cowboys, but a lot of them you'd have to send something back with Hopkins to be able to get that second-round pick. I'm going to instead take a flyer on Jerry Jeudy, who I thought was the best receiver in that class when he came out with CeeDee Lamb and Henry Ruggs. CeeDee Lamb started off his career a little bit better, but Jerry Jeudy starting off with Drew Lock and this horrific version of Russell Wilson we've seen last year, he didn't exactly draw the longest straw. So I'm going to take a chance on him, a great route runner, one of the best route runners I think we've seen come out over the past 5-6 years. I'll take a shot on him and see how he fits in this offense. Adding Nathaniel Down, now your receiving core is Hollywood Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, and then you take a shot on a draft pick and maybe an Antoine Wesley, or he's a free agent. But I think that would be a great move. As you lose Hopkins, you get younger, and you should have a decently talented guy to fill in that spot.
I like it. I mean, Judy's a guy who there's been some rumors that they might be looking to move him, or one of the
receivers. All three of those guys. Yeah. Hamler, Sutton, and Jeudy. I tried Sutton in the draft, but it would have been a straight up. It would have been Hopkins for Sutton. Yeah. And I thought Sutton, I do think Sutton is probably a better value at this very point. He's got better size. But getting the draft compensation back in return, I think made it a lot more. It swayed me a lot more towards Jeudy.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's some folks in the chat like this, like Jordan P says, I don't hate the he meant Jeudy typo. Jeudy trade since he has 2 more cheap years in the 5th year. Rooting if necessary. So I wouldn't hate it. Right. So yeah, I think I don't think it's a bad move. Dustin saying, do you think Broncos are looking to move a receiver for receiver? I mean, maybe. I mean, if they could get an upgrade, maybe they would. But that's a fair question, right? So I don't know. So it's we're all speculating here. Real quick, we got a Tommy Huxley. What's up? Tommy is a 49ers fan. He likes to come in here and razz me. Hey,
they do. You can't blame Tommy for saying it.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
So
listen, right now they do. But hey, get ready for the Sam Darnold era. Because
what a puzzling move that was. I don't get that at all. Will you bring in competition for Trey Lance to start in place while Purdy is hurt? Don't you want to see what Lance is? Like that does not make any sense to me. But good for Sam Darnold for just sticking around somehow. He's just gonna leech on to whatever team will take him and keep getting paid to do it. So good for Sam Darnold.
I mean, there's people who have good careers as backups if they wash out. So there's worse things, right? Lord Dane thanks for being here. Lord Dane loves having Jeudy in that deal, right? Yeah, and then Drew McWhorter likes it too, right? Let's see. Tommy saying I wouldn't trade D-Hop. He's top 5 receiver in the league. And my position has been for a long time, if he wants to stay, I'm keeping him. If he wants out, I'm trading him. And
I don't think that's ever the question. I think the question, you keep him no matter what. The problem is he probably doesn't want to be here. And you don't really blame him. At age 31, he wants to get out there and see more postseason action and have a chance at a ring. And players aren't dumb. I think sometimes we look at them in our uniform and are like, oh, they're totally 100% committed to this team and bringing a championship here. Hopkins has been around a long time. I think he knows what direction a team is going and when it's going that way. And like I said, at 31, I don't think it's ever a question on it if the Cardinals want him on their roster. It's if he wants to be here or not, and you can't really blame him for that.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I appreciate what he's done, and the team. When he's going to be like 33 before they're ready to contend. So I don't hate that, right? Real quick, we got Chad Ireland, good friend here of the show from Australia. Thanks for being here, man. Time perfectly. Good to see you and get the latest mocks. Appreciate you hanging out with us during your break at work. So thanks for being here. All right, so you got the trade, and with the pick you took Isaiah McGuire.
Yes.
So let's pick up from there.
More edge help. McGuire's a change of pace from Herbig. McGuire he was described as fierce, bulldozer, forceful, tenacious. He doesn't have size issues, that's for sure. He's got a great motor, very good bull rush. Plus, he's a Mizzou guy, as being from St. Louis. MIZ, so we love to have him. But he's got great size. I think, like I said, You need some dogs on the defense, and I think JG would be glad to have a guy with this kind of mindset. Had the pleasure of watching him the last few years. I think he's a very high motor, physical kind of guy that could benefit any defense. But getting him at this point, not reaching for a guy like this, obviously he would be picked higher if he was a coveted freak prospect. But I like where we get him here. And like I said, adding more to that defensive front is key. After that, we're going to take Dwayne McBride, running back out of UAB. You got to have some fresh legs added to that running back room with James Conner. Conner will be coming back year 2 of that 3-year deal he signed last year. Obviously, cutting Eno last year was a big hubbub in the fan base. But you got James Conner and Keontae Ingram, as far as I knew. Is that it in the running back room, I believe, as it sits?
Yeah. I mean, you've got Corey Clement,
that's right.
But that's, You need. I agree. I pretty much all my mock drafts have a running back added on day 3.
Right. I higher or lower. I think a lot of mine are sitting here around this area in rounds 4 to 5. I'd love Jamar Gibbs. That would be great. I'd love a Bijan Robinson. I'm just not spending my first, second round pick on a running back or a first round pick, obviously, at it overall. I just think history shows that the value is not quite there. You get 2 or 3 years out of these guys, and then they want to be paid. If it works out and they're successful, then you pay them, and then it doesn't end up working out. Cardinals fans know that firsthand with David Johnson. But McBride ran for 1,700 yards and 19 touchdowns in 2022. He rushed for over 120 yards or more in 10 of his 11 games, which is crazy production. He's very good in pass protection, not as accustomed to catching passes out of the backfield. But I think you take that kind of upside at this point in the draft with his production just on the ground. 6th round. Kind of hinted at there. Basically, rounds 5 through 7, you're looking for maybe diamonds in the rough, or guys that you think could step in and help you out on special teams. I think Ventrell Miller was a starter for a few years at Florida. He's a smart, tough guy. He lacks ideal athleticism to be a starting NFL linebacker, but as I said, you're not really looking for that here. You're looking for developmental guys that can step in and help you in other ways. And then rounding it off, Quindell Johnson, safety out of Memphis. Good ball skills, aggressive. He played a lot of single high safety, so they trusted him back there to roam kind of on his own. With that, he was a little too aggressive at times, but he did make plays. And he's another one that could step in and use his athleticism to help out on kickoff, punt return, all those kind of things. So you take a guy like that with high athletic upside, and then hopefully they turn into something down the road. But that caps it off.
Okay.
That's your birthday present, Joe. That's how we
you fixed the Cardinals. Thank you.
I would have maybe gave you Christian Gonzalez if I knew how you felt about Tyree Wilson, but I didn't know that. This is what we're working with.
Nice. Well, let me get to some of the comments. Decimus, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Hopkins appeared later in the year to be frustrated, I think.
As he should have been, I think.
Yeah, right. And it's understandably so, absolutely. I want to give you, Tio's mentioning no interior defensive line, but in your defense, you got this mock to me before the news broke that Zach Allen moved on. True. So I imagine after future mocks, you probably have some more interior defensive line help.
Absolutely.
Eric Hernandez, just saw Zach Allen's gone. We lost. Need to expect a bad year. I'm sorry to all my bros here in pain with me. We talked about that earlier. We're all sad to see him go. Yes, he went to the Broncos, Tommy, but for the price, right? Chad's mentioning McGuire. His biggest flaw is over pursuing, but great energy. Dustin saying he can play interior too, so that might help a little bit. Chris Young saying he likes McBride as a early day 3 pick, right? So a lot of people like McBride, right? Lord Dane mentions I like McBride though. I would wonder about drafting Israel Abanikanda, and that's an interesting name. If you follow Brett Coleman's work. He has his regular channel, but he also has the bootleg podcast that he does with is it DJ Snyder? I think that's his name. Anyway, they had a video they put out lately that definitely highly recommend on They're gems of the draft, the offensive ones and defensive drafts, gems, players they really like throughout the draft. And they talked about Abanikanda. And one of the things that really stood out that I thought was interesting is he's fast, but they mentioned he's a really good fit for the wide zone running game, which seems like what the Cardinals are going to be running. That's what they ran in Cleveland. So I think he's an interesting guy. I almost did him as my profile this week, but I didn't. But that's an interesting name that I think we should consider more as a fit for what this offense is going to run.
Where's he out of?
Is it Pitt? Is it Pittsburgh or Notre Dame? I'm not sure. I want to say someone let me know
colors,
if
so
they know off the top of their head. I'm sorry.
I said those are very adjacent color schemes, so I don't get. I don't blame you for getting those confused.
Right. And Jordan, yes, Pitt. Okay, yay.
Okay.
All right. And then Jordan P. Yeah, him to the Niners makes so much sense, but they're also a wide zone team. That's why it makes sense, right? Yeah. Because that's the same kind of running scheme, right? Teo saying to you, yeah, fair enough. I'm a culprit of turning my mock in before the news. I feel that, right? We've got Johannes, someone from Germany, hanging out with us. Good morning, lads. Appreciate you being with us, part of our Cardinals diaspora. Trent out, Agent 47 says really good analysis. I can see the hard work you put on it. Absolutely, Trent.
Thank you, Agent 47. I appreciate it.
Yes, for sure. John saying, I love that P2 said he wants to join a contender. Now he signs with the Steelers, right? Yeah. Goblinicus likes your draft. He says, good job. He likes that draft a lot, right?
Thank you, sir. Lots of hard work.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we got 2 McBrides, right? The double McBride set, right?
They're going to have to put the first initial on. Would that work? Yeah. D&T. Yeah, we'd be good there. That would work.
Luke has a question, and I know you went over the top 10, but refresh your memory. Was Carter gone at 8?
Yeah, Carter went to Seattle at 5. Okay. So the Lions used us to jump to 3. They took Anderson. Mm-hmm. Quarterback, plug in, whichever of the 4 name went 4, and then Jalen Carter went 5.
Right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, there's a lot of names I like on here. I like Wilson more than most people. I like where you got him. There's a couple other guys I like there as well, though. I like the cornerbacks there. Forbes is a ball hawk.
I think Forbes is one that I might have been the most excited coming away with, but
yeah, Forbes is. I'd like to see him out a little bit of weight, but he is a ball hawk, so I like that. Love Whippler. He's younger than John Michael Schmitz. As much as we love John Michael Schmitz here, Whippler's younger and a little more athletic. He's good. I think they're both going to be good. Getting some edge depth is nice. I like Hodge and Tomlinson again. That slot corners. And if we lose Murphy, that's going to be really important. I like Dell. We talked about him. So yeah, I like a lot of what you did here. Maybe there's a few things I might do a little differently if it's me, but I think and definitely appreciate all the research, right? Drew, yeah, definitely the deepest dive I've seen from any guest. Great work, Trent. Impressive. I'll definitely check out the channel. Yeah, everyone definitely do that. Johanna's saying, was my mock talked about already? No, haven't got him yet. So you're here in time. So we haven't got to them, right? So I like it, Trent. Good job.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, so you see that grade down at the bottom right? That's an A+.
Yes, okay.
You're a professor, okay? What are you grading it? And I don't want you to sugarcoat anything.
Okay.
I want an honest grade. I want however hard it needs to be, give it to me straight up.
Bring out the red ink. Bring out the red ink.
Exactly.
Okay. I like what you did with the trades. I like that you hit an edge rusher. I like that you got Wilson where you did. I like Forbes. I love Luke Whippler there. I don't have a problem with Dell. I like that you got a running back. So you hit a lot of the important positions, Hodges, Tomlinson. I do have to take off some points for not having more offensive line. I usually like to see a guard on like maybe day 3.
Steve Avalia.
Yeah. Zavala.
I like him a lot. Yeah. Zavala was around 5 or 6, I believe. He would have been a good choice there too. Yeah, I get it. Fair enough. Those are all fair criticisms.
Yeah, and then the no defensive interior line. I mean, listen, I know you didn't know about Zach Allen, but listen, it was
already a position of need. I get it.
Yeah, it was already need. So I'm going to give you a B+.
I'll take a B+.
It's really good. It's really good.
Listen, guys, GM's jobs are hard. There's only so many picks here, okay? I figured this out during the process. This is a difficult position. Maybe we were too hard on Steve Keim. That's something we all have to think about at some time. I'm completely joking when I say that. That's a joke. Yeah. But I did want to say this all set something up. So acquiring those first round picks wasn't an accident for next year. Okay. Let me give you a scenario. We are sitting in November, maybe early December, and the Cardinals are 2-7, 2-8. We go out and we sign, I don't know, Jacoby Brissett. He gets hurt. Colt McCoy's got to play. Maybe Clayton Tune if we do pick him up in the 6th round. And we're just getting bumps and bruises. It's a tough road. Kyler Murray and his camp are not rushing back, and I don't think either side is wanting Kyler to rush back from that injury that quick. I'm not saying he won't play at all. If we are at a top 3 to 5 pick going into 2024, and we have these 2 first-round picks in our back pocket at next year's draft comes around, we have to be considering Drake May or Caleb Williams, correct?
I'm not. I know everyone loves him, the quarterback that everyone's talking about. I'm ride or die with Kyler for at least the next 2-3 years.
Okay.
I'm building around Kyler. I mean, I get why people would say that. But I'm not.
Gosh, he's so good, Joe.
I know, but I think
Kyler's
so good with the right coach.
I think a big part of it will be because, as we said, this is a rebuild year. This is going to be acquiring draft capital and young talent and development and all of that, and it's not going to be based on wins and losses. But I think the way that he plays when he comes back from injury is going to be big for his future with the team. I know it might not be popular for a lot of people. I love Kyler. What do I got right here? This is my Kyler signed autographed ball right here. Love Kyler. Been a huge fan, defended him. But when you're in a position like that, that's tough. That is a Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence type, Peyton Manning type prospect. This is a prospect we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Nothing's a sure thing. But I've watched his tape since he came in and replaced Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. He screams Patrick Mahomes. And I know that's an easy, lazy comparison. Lazy, I put in quotes. But that is truly what some of the throws and things that he does in the field, that is really what he reminds you of. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Because I know it's you can see all roads kind of pointing that way. Not necessarily Caleb Williams, but definitely a high draft pick next year. So it's an interesting thought.
Let's say they end up with the number 1. And I'm with Decimus. I can't judge him until the line is right. I understand the argument. I do understand the argument. And I think there's a valid argument. Although I'm not doing it, there's a valid argument because if he's Patrick Mahomes, there's no trade that is worth there is no trade you can offer the Chiefs that is worth giving a Patrick Mahomes. He's a cheat code having him on your roster. So we don't, as good as he is, we don't know if he's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but let's say the Cardinals end up with the first overall pick for some, because they really do struggle with that bad. I don't think I think
3 to 5 is very plausible.
That bad to be the number 1 pick, right? But if they were if they're 3 to 5, you'd have to trade up. You'd have to give up a lot, and maybe you'd have the ammo.
You'd be giving up those 2 first, and you'd probably be giving up another one.
But I just don't know if the team at number 1 needs a quarterback, they're not making that trade, But let's say the flip side, let's say the Cardinals end up losing enough to be at number 1, which I don't think it happened, but if they did, the flip side of that is what could you get? Imagine what you can get for that pick.
More than what the Panthers just gave up. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Way more than what the Panthers just gave up.
Yeah. So let me get a couple comments in here real quick, though. Boston Ford, thanks for being here. The pain of the next couple of years is necessary to enjoy the glory when we finally make it to the top. I have faith still. I'm not worried about the lack of signings and free agency. I agree. I want to build a sustainable system, which is through the draft, right? Luke Stevens saying double trade backs aren't realistic because Chicago would have done it. They still might, though. It happens sometimes, right?
Carolina might trade back from what they've said.
Yeah. Robert saying a good analysis, see if Kyler is the quarterback of the future, is to give him a legitimate O-line. If he performs great, what the problem was. If he's terrible, you'll accept it's Kyler, right? And Lord Dane saying, much rather have Marvin Harrison type player because that's the player you could get, right? Drew saying, I'm with you. I follow OU big time. And there's some rumblings from there and USC about his maturity, the nail painting thing. We'll see.
We don't need any more of that. I don't want any more of those news stories, but goddamn, I love watching him throw a football. He is a good player. We'll see what happens. I just thought it was a fun little talk.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, right? No doubt. David saying likely we'll see trade down at third pick and trade Hopkins for picks at players. Yeah. Okay. No, it's a really interesting question. I'm going to build around Kyler, and I just, having watched Kyler, I've seen the kinds of throws he can make, and I think in a better system, I think he's going to be really good. We'll see, right? And if he isn't, then we'll have to, yeah. So I'm gonna try to fix the Cardinals myself now. Let's see what we got here. Here's what I came up with. I started off with a trade back. Okay, traded with the Falcons because with some of the trades moving up and with what we've seen in terms of with the Raiders signing Jimmy Garoppolo, I think they still could be in the market for drafting a quarterback, but I think now they have less input or less pressure to move up, right? The Raiders, but I think the Falcons are a team that could still move up. So I moved back, got a second round and a fourth round this year and a first round next year. Okay. Maybe could have got more, but still. So a couple picks. And then I took Devin Witherspoon. I love Gonzalez, but I also like Witherspoon, a little more of an inside-outside kind of cornerback. Either one of them are
Was
great.
Gonzalez on the board at that point?
I think he was. Witherspoon's rated higher. I like both of them. They're both
I
so
do
good.
too.
Yeah. So I think Witherspoon, to me, Witherspoon is a better version of Byron Murphy Jr. He's that kind of corner, plays slot, plays outside, tackles well, except he's better at all of that, I think. So if we lose Murphy Jr., then he's a great fit right there. And then I went defensive interior, Mazi Smith, kind of a nose tackle, but he's got some pass rush ability. I love him in the second round. So that helps fill the interior. And then I got Bija Ojulari. Since we didn't go pass rusher in the first round, I went with probably my favorite pass rusher in the second round. He's a guy, like the profile in Ojulari is, his brother plays for the Giants. Ojulari, it doesn't have the same physical tools of some of the prospects we look at, but he's like got every pass. He's a technician. He has every pass rush move. Like I was watching a kind of a profile on him, and like you look at it, they're talking about when you look at his tape, every single kind of pass rush move he knows how to use, right? So he may not have like the Tyree Wilson length or those kinds of crazy tools, but he's a skilled pass rusher. So I love him there. And I'm getting some comments, love Ojulari, right? Yeah. Ojulari at 44, right? Love that. And then I went with Whipple like you did. And then I did my first mock draft. This is my first Hopkins trade, I think, in Mock Draft Monday, because I finally needed to do that because I think it's happening. I did the trade with the Chiefs, second round and a seventh round. We'll see what they end up getting for him. Then in the third round, I picked up my favorite receiver in this draft, A.T. Perry. Love him. Then I went with a running back, Kendry Miller out of TCU. He's a guy I really like there. And then Ivan Pace Jr., that inside linebacker, he's like the guy from Detroit, Rodriguez that they talk about. He's kind of who he's kind of compared to. So he's a guy who would be maybe that third linebacker, inside linebacker, really good player. Then I shored up the defensive interior a little bit more with Kobe Turner, right, to help with offset. He's a guy who's got some really good he's really aggressive in terms of some play inside, so I like him a lot. Chandler Zavala, he's on almost all my drafts. Love him. He's my favorite middle of the draft guard. Then Jose Ramirez he's kind of the trendy day 3 out edge rusher. He's a guy who had a ton of sacks at a smaller program. A lot of people really like him. Then I always try to include the guy I profile, so Puka Nakua in round 6, and then Spencer Anderson, a developmental guard out of Maryland, to kind of round that out. And they gave me an A, so they liked it. So what are your thoughts, Trent, on this here mock draft?
I like what you said about Devin Witherspoon, how it's kind of a toss-up between those two guys. I have BJ, what is it, Ojulari? Ojulari.
Ojulari.
See, I'm reading all these names and
Yeah,
profiles and stuff. I don't hear him all that much, but I like his value there. Obviously, a fan of Luke Whippler. The Chiefs trade, the Chiefs were kind of a trendy name too, and obviously it's a mock draft. It's who knows, but the idea that they would let Tyreek Hill go because they didn't want to spend money and then flip and go and get Hopkins at 31 for all that money is a little iffy to me, but it's a mock draft. You got a second out of him, and who knows? That's probably around that. I believe that's about the value that you could probably get.
Maybe it's a different team, but it's still a good enough placeholder in terms of what it does for us, right?
Also out of the conference, he gets to go to a contender. Good for D-Hop. D-Hop with Patrick Mahomes, that would be awesome to watch. But A.T. Perry, you guys will all talk. I'll take you guys' word from him. I don't know a whole lot about him. Kendry Miller, TCU, great. I'm just reading through. I had Kobe Turner in a lot of mine as well, filling some of that interior defensive line that I didn't have much of in the last mock. But I mentioned before Zavala. I have also had him in plenty of drafts too. Very good value that late at the guard position. And then from there, I learned a lot about Puka already, so I like to pick there. And edge, guard, take another guy at edge. Throw those darts I was talking about earlier. So, yeah. I'll give you, you know what, since it's your birthday, I'll give you an A+ as well. So there you go. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Trent. Well, let's get to some of the comments in here. Got some, looks like people like this. Eduardo likes this. Thank you. Appreciate that. Grand John Michael Schmitz or bust, so I don't have him, right?
He went 0 for 2 on John Michael Schmitz.
I know.
Poor guys. I feel bad for him. I couldn't give him what they wanted.
Right. You and me either, right? Drew saying Ramirez is really nice. I've been digging into his tape since last week, and he's a dude. Never know how it'll translate against high-level comp, but worth the risk for sure there. I agree. I think he'll go earlier than that when the draft comes around, but, if he's there, I'm going to take him, right? Dominic likes Ojulari. Robert saying he's a beast. Jordan likes Miller at pick 96, right? Let's see. Petrie Pack saying Kyler in week 13 last year was talked about as MVP. O-line imploded. Rodney Hudson retired for the field. Injury to Will Hernandez, DJ Hump, and K1 sucks.
I don't think he sucks.
O-line, and he's back to Pro Bowl. Sorry,
I don't think he sucks at all.
Yeah.
I think he could be a top 10.
And I think what he meant was his play sucked. He doesn't suck. Because he's saying he was talked about as MVP before, and then when
I thought he was talking about like the narrative around him changed to K1 sucks.
Yeah, So, and I think what he's saying is his.
I agree
sucked,
with him
right?
too.
Yeah. Drew saying Ojulari is super deep bag. That's the route I prefer in trade back. Get your cornerback one. Then I think there's very slightly less of a gap in edges and then cornerbacks. Yeah. I really like. This is a lot of my mock drafts look like this now. Trade back one of the cornerbacks. And then getting Ojulari and Mazzy Smith, I'm getting a lot there too. I love him as an interior. Zavala has become a staple on Mock Draft Mondays, right? So, Drew saying Gonzalez and Witherspoon are tier 1 for me, then Porter, then like 10 guys are tier 3. I see it kind of similar to that as well. Probably maybe move them up a little bit. Petrie Pack likes Gonzalez better than Witherspoon. They're both really good. I'm happy.
Take your pick.
Here's Gonzalez is more of the outside corner. He's smooth. He's more your kind of gonna play on the perimeter, potential for a lockdown corner. Witherspoon is a guy who you can move around but still can be a beast. So it's apples and oranges. Take your pick, right? Which do you prefer? Lord Dane likes his draft. Ojulari, Witherspoon, Pace Perry. Thank you. Agent 47 doesn't like the value of the D-Hop trade. Yeah, I'm feeling like though this is what it's going to look like second round. We'll see, right?
I almost think at this point a second is probably top dollar. A late second is probably. And I it's like I said, it's fluctuated so much. It seems the reports of compensation, but I guess as we get closer here to the draft, I don't know. It's just hard telling. That's why these mock drafts and stuff it's hard. It's kind of a crapshoot at times because you're just guessing on based what a computer tells you is acceptable or not. But I get what he's saying.
Yeah, for sure. Luke Stevens saying AT has Hakeem Butler vibes to me. And,
oh no.
So I hear that. Like, here's the deal. Like, the big, tall receivers, if they're not fast, it's tough. Like it's the Kelvin Benjamin guy. He had a one good year and then whatever. If you're a big receiver, you either need to be fast or you need to have some sort of ability that gets you separation, like Drake London, right? He's not the fastest receiver for Atlanta, but with his body control, he does a good job of creating separation to get the catch. But if you can't do that, then that's the Hakeem Butler. So I get that, but I think the answer to that is
one of my favorite Kelvin Beachum one, who wasn't on I think it was Damian Woody.
Benjamin.
Kelvin Benjamin, yeah. Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end. I think that's what he said on ESPN.
Right.
That was great. Hakeem Butler, though, shout out STL Battlehawks of the XFL. He is tearing it up. I see that as I said, I'm from St. Louis. Watching those games, it's like, where was this guy? Look at this. Right. He's balling. Good for him.
Yeah, in the XFL, right? But I think for A.T. Perry, the thing is, he has good body control, and I think his 40 was 4.47, but he's fast. Like he's pretty fast. He's faster than most receivers his size.
Anything in the 4.4s, that'll be solid at that size.
So to me, that's what gives me hope and why I like him, right? So there we go. Pete Truback, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Appreciate that. Drew likes the mock. Dakota, happy birthday. Thank you. Appreciate that. Robert gives me an A-. Hey, listen, Robert is a shrewd grader, but he says
even on his birthday, Robert.
Yeah. What's up with that? No, but I get it. Yeah. Jordan P saying Darnell Wright said he had a harder time with Ojulari than Will Anderson. Right. So listen, I like Ojulari a lot. He's a guy that Ojulari and is one of the reasons I'm more open to trading back. I don't feel like it's Will Anderson or bust as much as I like Will Anderson. Yeah. So there's guys like him there, right? So Pete Truback's clarifying O-line sucked and he plays bad, not K1's fault. Yeah, I agree. Imagine if you get Ojulari and Anderson, you could theoretically, right? If he's there on round 2, you'd just be, not getting other picks. Luke saying, check out Michael Wilson if you want a receiver size. Yeah, he's a guy I've kind of looked at. I need to look at a little bit more, right? So that's interesting, right? All right, see, Butler ran a 4.48. Perry's 4.43. Not a huge difference. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, folks seem to like it. Yeah, or I imagine Ojulari and Jalen Carter, right? Drew saying, is Robert actually more negative than me tonight? Okay. I'm doing okay, King Robert. All right. Okay. So yeah, there's my mock. Seems like folks like it. I think we both got good mocks tonight. This has been fun for the A segment. Trent, is there anything else you want to talk about before we give you a chance to get out of here?
No, man, this was a lot of fun. The chat was awesome. You guys were very interactive. I loved hearing what you guys had to say. The mocks, the final overarching theme, I think, when you're at a spot that the Cardinals are in and you're picking third overall, you got this fresh regime, new coaches. You have to maximize the value of that pick. You're not, obviously the Cardinals were at 119. You hope to not be in a position like this very often. So when you are, unfortunately, here, the key thing is to maximize the value. And I thought in my strategy, getting a couple first next year, adding a second, that's one way to go about it. I think, also capitalize on moving back. I think a lot of Cardinals fans at first didn't like the idea of that because you're missing out on Will Anderson. Mm-hmm. You think he's going to be a great player, but we're not one player away. And that's something that I think a lot of people need to know. And I, for one, I'm okay either way. I think Will Anderson is fantastic. I think he would be awesome to plug in. Give him to JG, see what he can do with him. But I think when you're in this spot, especially when you're not needing a quarterback right now, the smart thing is to maximize that and accumulate more picks. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed it. I thought, hey, I got an A. Where did I get a B+? I'll take a B+
from me, but
Professor Joe. So worked out for me. But I had a great time. This was awesome.
Awesome. Well, Decimus likes it. He thought 2 of the most complete and deep drafts so far. Good job.
Sweet.
Pete Trupack asking, what do you think we get from Colts to trade down for 4 and still get Anderson? And that, we've talked about that. That's the dream scenario. In my opinion, I think moving back one spot like that, you're getting a second round this year and one other pick that I don't think you're getting a future first in that.
No,
I think you
not a
get a second
chance.
round this year and either a future day 2 pick or another pick on day
Maybe a
3
2
today.
and a 4 next year, possibly. Maybe a
2
player. Who
this year,
knows?
2 next year, maybe one more pick on day 3. Yep.
Maybe. Yeah.
That seems like
Yeah.
the cap for that. We'll see,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, Agent 47 is with you. We need to build a team on draft, right?
Absolutely.
Why am I confident BJ will be good? He hasn't ever graded in Agents college. He isn't an elite athlete. I mean, listen, we don't, we'll have to see, right? I think, I think his brother's been decent in the NFL. I think he's a similar player. I think like Will Anderson has a higher upside, and I totally get that. He doesn't have that athletic upside, but I think he's going to be solid. So we'll have to see, right? But I think he's got the pass rush moves to be good. We'll have to see though, right? Okay. I want to be able to get you out of here. Trent, tell people where to find you, what they can expect from the work that you do, and anything else you want to share about your podcast.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, Two Birds, One Stone podcast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, personal pages at Red Sea Trent. During the season, weekly episodes, maybe even twice a week. Off season, we try and do every other week. Doing a cool new thing, Two Birds Trivia, which I think, Joe, you would be great on. We have two Cardinals fans on, and we give them I think it was 5 questions each last time. Trivia questions, just go back and forth. Just kind of fun thing to do, fill time during the off season. We'll be at the draft in Kansas City. Me and my 2 brothers are going to head there. We're going to do some content from there. Maybe go live, put out some vlogs on YouTube. So check those out. But other than that, yeah, that's where you can find me. Subscribe to the show, watch the show. We keep it pretty light over there. This was analytical, Trent. I got pretty deep in the weeds with Joe. I filled in the need for the show. Over there, we're pretty slap happy, a lot of jokes, but we have fun, and we enjoy interacting with all you guys. So check it out. Give us a follow. Send us DMs, whatever. We love hearing from everybody. But Joe, this was amazing. I had a great time, and maybe we'll get you over on the Two Birds, One Stone podcast at some point this offseason.
Anytime. I'm always happy to hang out with folks on their podcast. So just let me know.
Would be great.
For sure.
Would be great.
Yeah. Had fun having you here. You did a great job. Really thorough. It's good getting to connect with you. Obviously we followed each other on Twitter, but the first time getting to work together, collaborate. So appreciate you, Trent. I know you got to get going, but thank you for hanging out, and we'll do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you to you, Joe, and thank you to the chat. See you, everybody. Go Birds.
Right. Bye. All right, everyone. Great job by Trent. Definitely go check him out. His links are in the description of the video. So go subscribe, follow him on Twitter. Does good stuff over there with Two Birds, One Stone. So now we're here for what you all are really here for. That's redundant, right? So redundant. Here it's time for your mock drafts. So here is the first mock draft submitted. We have Fraught Dog. Now, Front Dog did a couple trade backs, ended up at pick 7, so he gets a bunch of extra picks. He's got a second, a third this year, plus a future third from Seattle, and then from the Raiders in exchange for pick 5 and a future third, got the 7th pick, a 3rd round this year, a 6th round this year, and a 2nd next year. All right, and then took Devin Witherspoon, like Witherspoon. We talked about him. Then in the 2nd round, got Nolan Smith. So love that. He killed it at the combine. I think he's going to be gone in the 1st round. So I don't think he's actually going to be available in round 2. But love Nolan. If that happened, that would just be, that'd be amazing. But I think he's going to be gone. But love him as a player. Siva Villa, really, really nice guard / center from TCU. So you got a guard fixing the trenches. And then you got Luke Whippler, the center out of Ohio State, 3rd round. So we're fixing center. Then you've got Diane Henley, a linebacker out of Washington State, who is in round 3. So getting some depth at linebacker. Nathaniel Dell, we talked about him before. Now you've got another little trade in there to get a few extra picks there. And then we got Nathaniel Dell, the receiver we talked about earlier. Then we got another cornerback, Garrett Williams out of Syracuse, Nick Herbig, edge rusher, Deuce Vaughn, halfback, very small kind of scat back, but really good in space. Luke Schoonmaker, tight end out of Michigan, center Juice Scruggs, then another cornerback, Mekhi Blackman, and then Trey Dean. All right. So I love Witherspoon. I love the Nolan Smith. I like what you did with the Avila and Whippler. Like it. Get a linebacker, get a receiver. Yeah, we like a taller receiver. We've talked about that. But I do like Dell. Really went heavy on the cornerback, so it's interesting. Obviously, if we lose Byron Murphy, then that's also we're gonna need some more cornerbacks. I don't know if I'd go 3 of them if it's me, but still, like getting some players there. So we got 2 centers, so we got some depth there, got a safety. So yeah, I mean, if it's me, there's a couple things I maybe want to do differently. I'd want some interior defensive line help, right? Robert's pointing that out. No DI could replace one of those quarterbacks with a DI. I agree with that. And then maybe, with running backs, Deuce Vaughn's an interesting guy, but he is very small. I probably want to get someone a little bigger. If that's me. But aside from that, I mean, I think there's some players I really like on here. So overall, good job. Thanks for submitting. Next up, we have David Jimenez. Appreciate you, David. I think I saw you in the chat earlier. Let me know if you're still here. So he also had a Hopkins trade with the Bears, getting Hopkins in a 4th and a future 6th for a 2nd and a 4th this year. So a little bit of a 4th grade swap, right? Yeah, Lord Dane saying he does. Vaughn works as your receiving back, and that's what he is. Absolutely. I still like getting someone a little bigger, but that's just me. But yeah, so anyway, David's got Will Anderson at pick 3, so he didn't trade back from 3. Stuck there, got Will Anderson, then got Mazi Smith at 34. So you got some nice interior help with the edge, and then you've got Adetomiwa Adebawore. Profiled him, I think, last week out of Northwestern. Love his potential. He's a really intriguing athlete. So I love getting him there. You've really, really done some nice stuff for the interior defense or for the defense line in general. And then Nathaniel Dell shows up on a lot of mocks. We've talked about him a bit. Then you got a couple cornerbacks. You got Hodges, Tomlinson. So you got your slot corner, and then Jacorian Bennett, who's I think a little bit bigger, more the outside corner. So more of a developmental, but you've got a couple corners there. Love Zavala. Love Mafi. Not sure how I feel about him as a pick or as a fit for this offense, but I love him as a prospect. And then Justin Shorter. So, there's some nice players in here. If you're doing this, the couple of things, would really like to see a running back, which we don't see obviously. And, maybe, switch one of the guards with a center prospect, right? Those are the 2 things maybe, but, in this scenario, I guess the assumption would be that they've addressed center and free agency and maybe in running back, right? But yeah, Will Anderson and Adebawore off the edge would be nasty, right? I love that combination, right? Level 7, thanks for being here. I think he likes that as well. So I think I like what you did here. Maybe there's a few things I'd do a little differently. But man, those first 3 picks I love. Anderson, Smith, and Adebawore. That's like, that would be awesome. So nice job, David. I really like those first 3 picks in particular. All right, next up we have Johannes. So hopefully you're still here, our friend from Germany. So here is your mock draft. He's got a trade back with the Raiders. And then at pick 7, he took Tyree Wilson, right? So trading back. And then at pick 34, Deontay Banks, one of the good corners in this deep class. So like that. So you got edge and then cornerback, and then Mazi Smith, who's been showing up a lot today. So he, getting that interior defensive line shored up. Luke Whippler, we love him. Andre Carter, a guy who had a rough combine. The only thing he did, I think, was a bench press, and he didn't perform particularly well. He's going to need a really good pro day. But he's intriguing. He's got some of the same kinds of things we talk about with Wilson in terms of the length, right? He's here, and this mock draft's from March 3rd, by the way. So it's, there's some things that have happened since then. Okay, awesome. Appreciate you being here. But so Carter's an interesting guy, but getting him in round 3 with the upside is nice, right? So when you're a guy like that who has that kind of potential, but maybe doesn't have a great combine, and maybe you slide a little bit, but teams take a chance on you there, right? So, and then we got Hodges Tomlinson, cornerback, that slot cornerback. We talked about him like that. Then Brandon Joseph, a safety out of Notre Dame, get some safety depth. Zavala and Mafi, we talked about them. And Asim Richards, a tackle. So, yeah, I mean, like, maybe the only thing I don't see that I'd really like to see is a running back, right? But I love, some of the stuff you've done on here, right? Yeah, Carter, Brian saying Carter in third, no way. Like that's, that he fell there. I'm guessing is what you mean by that. Drew saying love Mazzy, Whippler, and Joseph in this one, right? Yeah, there's nice players there. Robert saying, I'm really not sure Raiders are looking trade up now they have Jimmy since this draft was submitted after the news gets a pat or before the news. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love some of the picks on here. I think obviously Mazzy Smith, Banks, and Wilson, that's a nice combination. Whippler. So yeah, Johannes, I think he did really good. Sure. I'd like a running back if it's me, but again, that's just me. But nice job. Appreciate you being here and submitting your mock draft and hanging out with us and getting up early in Germany to hang out with us. So thank you so much. Good job. Next up, we've got Judai. I don't know. I don't think I've seen Judai in the chat, but he's a regular participant in Discord, in the Discord server and these live streams. So Judai's got a mock draft where he took Jalen Carter at 3. That's interesting. Like I'll obviously we've talked about this ad nauseum. Love the player. I think you can get him trading back, but obviously with the defensive interior positionally though, boy, we need some help there, right? With Zach Allen gone. So, you'd love what he would be on this team if they were to draft him. But John Robinson, falling to second round, I've talked about this a lot. I like taking running backs on day 3, but if you're gonna, I don't hate it on day 2. And if you got a guy as good as him and he falls to pick 34, I got no problem with taking that. I mean, he's that good. So, and the value there in round 2 is nice. So that is good. And then let's see, we have,
It's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
We've got our first JMS appearance, John Michael Schmitz. So we love him around here later in the second round in the pick that you got for the Hopkins trade, right? And then we've got Hodges Tomlinson, who's shown up a lot today. So you got that cornerback in there. Then Nathaniel Dell. You got another trade in there to move back a little bit. Nathaniel Dell. And then we've got Jonathan Mingo, a bigger receiver that a lot of people really like. Got some interesting tools. So you've got a bigger receiver and a smaller receiver. Got some linebacker help in round 5. Cam Jones out of Indiana. We have Antonio Mafi, like him as a player. Like I said, I'm just not sure about the scheme fit, but love him as a player, no doubt. Mekhi Blackman, another cornerback there, a little bit later, who's a little bit bigger. Someone maybe develop a little bit. And then Clayton Tune, quarterback out of Houston. So he's thrown to his guy Dell that he has familiarity with. So Drew McWhorter saying, I think Mingo surpassed Wilson for me as my late round wide receiver guy for sure. Love that pickup. Yeah. I know a lot of people really like him. So yeah, I like the picks. I think all the positions are here. You got the running back, defensive interior. Maybe there's no edge rusher. That's one thing a lot of people would like to see. But I think, I think this would be a draft that would help improve this team a lot. So like it. Thank you, Judai. Next up, Dakota Bedard. I know you were in the chat earlier. So Dakota's got some trades here. I'm going to be honest. Trades aren't realistic. I don't know, trading up from 3 to 1 swap of those picks. So, not really realistic, but hey, the trades are not realistic. So we're going to talk about the players at least. Right. But Will Anderson, you don't have to trade up to 1 to get him. He's going to be there at 3 most likely, but obviously we like Will Anderson. And then, he did another trade where we didn't trade anything and we got pick 31. So, yeah, spicy time. We got something a little spicy, right? Mixing it up. But Keely Ringo, I think you can get Ringo later, but I like him as a as a cornerback with the tools that you can develop, right? And then we got Siaka Ika, big interior defensive lineman, nose tackle, right? Then we got Noah Sewell, linebacker from Oregon. I think that's a little early for him, but he's an interesting player. Voorhees with the injury, he might get drafted, but it's going to be later. Someone take him late in day 3. But love Chandler Zavala, obviously. Then Ricky Stromberg as center. I don't think he's a great scheme fit, but he's an interesting player. Carter Warren, I like a lot. That's the tackle that's one of two tackles that I really like in this class later in the draft. So I like him. Then we've traded DJ Humphries, get some picks. That's maybe the most realistic trade on here, but that could happen, right? Then we got Trey Dean III, safety, maybe, nice depth at safety. Then Asim Richards, developmental tackle, a tight end. Ronnie Bell, I like him, right? You got a couple more trades in here moving around picks wise. Then we had kicker, punter, Blake Cunningham, quarterback, and some more trades. So, the trades aren't realistic, most of them, and some of the players went earlier, but there's some players I like on here. So thanks for submitting that, Dakota. I appreciate that. All right, next up. Yeah, did they hire for these trades? Did Carolina and Kansas City hire he who shall not be named as an advisor? Yeah, maybe a certain someone who rhymes with. Well, we won't even say that. Yeah, we know who. All right, so thank you, Dakota. Next up, we have Hiding Out now. I don't know if Hiding Out was in the chat, but he's very active in Discord. Appreciate you submitting one. Now this one's interesting because I know this was mentioned, I think, earlier. Well, no, this wasn't mentioned. But Justin Pugh mentioned this on Twitter, like that Ryan Kelly, the center for the Colts, is rumored to have been on the trading block, and I think it was Justin Pugh who tweeted out, like, if I were the Cardinals making the decision for the Cardinals, I'd look to try to do a trade back to pick 4 that includes Ryan Kelly at center. And so it's an interesting thought. So I think Hiding Out now is probably did this one based, I'm guessing, kind of with that thought process in mind. So there's a trade back to 4, getting a second round pick plus Ryan Kelly. So getting a center, right? So that's an interesting thought, right? It certainly would help meet a need. And then you move back to 4, you get Will Anderson, right? We love getting him there. Then you get Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback that, Trent had on his mock. So that's a nice one. And then DeJuan Jones, big right tackle, who's an interesting player, right? And then we got Steve Avila, guard. So, now you're transitioning to the trenches after getting the edge and the cornerback. You've got a Hopkins trade in here. And then we got Luke Whippler. So you've got a center of the future and a center of today, so to speak. So that's interesting. I wonder if one of them eventually moves to guard. Then we got Kendra Miller, halfback. Love that. Voorhees, we talked about he's injured. I get, someone might draft him with the hope that he's going to play next year and they're just to have his rights. And sort of redshirt him, IR him, or pup list him, I guess. And I think if that happens, it's later. I think he's going to be if someone's going to draft him, it's going to be more like, I think, the 6th or 7th round. So if you want to take him with that perspective, I'd be taking him later. But I also get that in their mock draft simulator, he might not be available later because it's kind of not taking that into account. We got Mekhi Blackman, another cornerback on day 3. Jalen Redmond, a defensive interior lineman out of Oklahoma. So he might be more of like a 3 technique, sort of a replacement for Zach Allen, in terms of at least the position he plays. And then Elijah Hickens, receiver out of Stanford. So getting a receiver on day 3. So yeah, I like what you did here. I mean, I maybe, there's a few things I might do a little bit differently, but I like getting Will Anderson there, getting the cornerback, fixing the offensive line, getting a running back. Got someone in defensive interior. Maybe I'd like another defensive interior in there, but nitpicking. But yeah, I like this. This is good. Drew's saying Pugh responded to me and saying Ben Jones and drafted center was a good option. Said both should be on our radar. So that would be I think what the Cardinals, and I would generally agree that the Cardinals need to sign a veteran free agent center who is not terribly expensive, kind of a value free agent, but someone who can start. And then they then draft someone, right? That's kind of what I would do, right? Yeah, Brian saying, I like how Pugh just elected himself as assistant GM, right? Yeah, he's been very active on this, right? Chris is saying, for a guard of that caliber, I don't actually hate taking Voorhees in the 4th, early 5th. We're not winning this year anyway. He might be worth waiting for. Yeah, I will say it's for me, though, Voorhees is a better fit for a power run or an inside zone. So I don't take Voorhees in my drafts anymore because I don't know that he's a great fit for the wide zone. So he's not a great scheme fit and he's recovering from an injury. So someone else I think he's going to be a better fit for someone else to draft. That's in my opinion. But But yeah, overall though, nice mock. Thank you. I now appreciate that. Next up, a friendly Viking who's very active in Discord as well. He's got a trade back with the Lions to get their 2 first-round picks. Listen, I don't know if the Lions are going to want to part with both of those, but if they did, that's one of my favorite trades to get, right? And then also a 5th-round pick. So, man, getting both of those would be nice. And I love what you got with these first 2 picks, Witherspoon and Kalijah Cansey. I love that. Obviously, we talk about Witherspoon, Kalijah. Oh, this is you? Is this you? Okay, so Teo Capero, this is you. Okay. Sometimes I don't know who's who with the difference between names in here and names in Discord. Awesome. I love Kalijah Cansey. Just what he brings. He's a unique athlete. So that I love that combination. Then we got Bijan Robinson. So you've got Hopkins getting a 1st-round pick for Hopkins and a 6th-round pick. So you went with Bijan Robinson late in the first. I guess I'm not running back 1st-round guy, but I get the talents there, and the fact that you've got 2 other 1st-round picks that you're hedging that with. I don't hate it. I mean, he's going to be a nice player. So, I wouldn't complain too much if that happened. Let's see. Level 7 saying I did the same. But I don't like the players. You mean, okay. There you go. I do like, again, I'm not doing running back there, but I understand it. He's so talented. And then Ojulari on edge. We've talked about him. Love that. So like that you've really done some nice things for this roster, those first 4 picks. So I will absolutely agree with that. Like nicely done there. Whippler center, we talked about him a lot. Hodgins Tomlinson showed up. Dell, those picks, Zavala, Mafi, like all those picks are pretty common. We love those players. So, and then Jake Bobo, an interesting big receiver late. So, yeah, I mean, you helped all the places we need help with. I think it's a really nice mock. I really like it, Teo. Think that really, yeah. Not everyone's on the same board, let's see. But I like especially those first 2 picks. And I like Robinson as a player again. So it's a draft value kind of thing. Let's see. Drew's saying, yeah, Lions really seem to be sold on letting it ride with Goff. Odd approach. They're building it up just enough to not be in position to get the quarterback next year. Odd approach. Yeah, I have this kind of thought. I have this theory about the whole Goff thing. I think like Goff, Goff is in that middle tier. He's in that weird tier of quarterbacks with David Carr and Kirk Cousins, where it's like they're not bad quarterbacks, and with the right talent around them, you can do some interesting things. They can be competitive and have a good offense. My flaw, and I've probably said this on here before. I just have this theory or hypothesis, whatever you want to call it, that the Lions kind of like Goff as their guy because he represents to them the guy that nobody believes in. Everyone wrote him off, as this former 1st overall pick who, kind of got traded away, scrapyard by the Rams, and no one believes in him. And that's just the kind of guy they want, who's going to be, committed to them, and that there's going to be, bought into the culture. Nobody believes in us. That's kind of my thought. I think they want to go with him for that, right? Yeah, and Lord Dane saying Goff performed like a top 10 quarterback for the second half of the season. So I'm not saying it's the right approach. I'm just saying that's my thought. That's my theory about them. I don't know, right? So okay, so let's see. Level 7 saying I think the Lions are bluffing. They still haven't extended Goff. I think they'll trade it for a quarterback this year. They might, right? So if they do, I'd love to be the team that they trade up with, right? All right. But yeah, I like this mock, Friendly Viking. Thank you so much. Next up, Brian Ostrander. So Brian, we got you in the chat, right? He's got to trade back with the Raiders. Christian Gonzalez, cornerback at 7. Then DeJuan Jones, right tackle 34, right? A big right tackle there. Though I think with the signing of Kelvin Beachum, I don't know if they'll go tackle that early. They might, but I think they might go a little bit later. But we'll see. But he's a good player. Obviously, Mazzie Smith, love that, right? Then we've got a Hopkins trade with the Colts. And then, of course, what we have next.
It's got John Michael, he's our Sander Schmitz.
All right. So we got JMS. We love him there, right? Then Garrett Williams, a cornerback out of Syracuse. Zach Charbonnet, a nice running back out of UCLA. Really like that pick. A.T. Perry, y'all know how much I love A.T. Perry. Carl Brooks, I profiled him a few weeks back. He's an intriguing edge rush prospect who's got some interesting, traits to develop. So I like that there in the 4th round. Linebacker Dorian Williams, nice linebacker depth there. Stetson Bennett, so getting, the Georgia quarterback for some depth. Got a trade to move around and got the punter and the kicker, Moody and Turk. So, yeah, I like Gonzalez. Maybe I'm going somewhere different than DeJuan Jones. That's just me, but he's a good player. We got Mazi Smith. Level 7 would like to see more of a traditional edge rusher. Carl Brooks is like 300 pounds. Other than that, he's fine. Brooks would be, he's going to be a defensive end in their system. They're going to have multiple fronts, right? So he's going to move around a little bit. If you're playing him inside, then what you're doing is you're having Maje and Cam Thomas a little more as your outside kind of guys on when they in certain fronts, right? But yeah, and then Drew's saying Beecham Mute will change my approach for sure, but I love some Dorian Williams is an interesting prospect as well, and of course cornerback Juan Gonzalez. So yeah, but no, I like this. I think you hit on all the positions we need to see. Maybe there isn't the traditional a smaller edge rusher, but I like Carl Brooks, and I would definitely, if you've got Mazi Smith and Carl Brooks, I don't hate that. They're probably going to add some. They're going to have to add a little more on the line, but yeah, and yeah, and still the only one giving a kicker and punter some love, right? Grandizer likes this chat, right? Or likes this draft, so yeah. All right, so Brian, thank you. Overall, I think it's a good mock, right? So nice. Next up, Chris Young, who I know has been in here tonight. So hopefully you're still here hanging out with us. Got a trade back and a pretty big trade back with the Jets. So picking up a first, a second, and a fourth, and a future first and a fourth to go all the way back to 13. And I'll tell you, this is a guy I really like. Lucas Van Ness is a really intriguing edge rusher. If you're trading back this far, this is a guy I'm looking at. So if you're trading back to the, kind of the teens, I really like this pick. I usually go cornerback there, but I really like, and here he is. Yeah. My mock is dependent on Rodgers not getting traded, right? Yeah. So there we go. Right. But I like Lucas Van Ness. He's a guy I think I'm probably going to see a little more on some mock drafts. I just don't usually trade back that far, but I like him a lot. Then DeJuan Jones, we talked about him. Steve Avila, like him. Right. Eli Ricks, a nice one of those kind of next tier cornerbacks, right? Like getting an Alabama cornerback round 3 to build with and develop. I like that. Right. A.T. Perry, I love him. Then Moro Ojomo's a nice, very good fit for Arizona, solid fit for Arizona. I agree. He's a nice player there. Dwayne McBride, Trent had him in his draft, like him. Then another developmental interior lineman, Jared Clark out of Coastal Carolina. So adding a little more depth to the interior line, getting a linebacker there, and Stetson Bennett. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a nice draft. I like the Lucas Van Ness pick. I will say this though, Avila played center at TCU, so he could, if you're getting Avila, he's listed as a guard here, and I think that's where they think he's going to play, but if you could be bringing him in to be center. So I could be okay with that. Right. But, yeah, level 7 solid draft. Can't be mad at it. Right. So yeah, I like this, good bit. Right. So yeah. Let's see. Next up we have Lance. I haven't seen Lance in the chat, but Lance Sheridan, thanks for your, dropping this mock draft. He's got Jalen Carter number 3. We talked about this before. I think you can trade back and get him if you want him, with what's happened, but we'll see. But obviously we like him as a player. DeJuan Jones, we talked about a lot. Luke Whippler, love that. Right. Just Thomason showing up a lot tonight. And then we've got Dorian Williams, linebacker, interesting prospect to Tulane. Then Ojomo again, Chandler Zavala, and then Will Mallory, right? A little tight end depth later on day 3, which I kind of like. So yeah, there's a lot of players I like on here. I'd want to see, if it's me, I want to see a running back somewhere. We didn't get a running back, maybe an edge rusher, but yeah, but like there's some really nice picks on here, right? Though Jordan P he co-signs on it. He likes, I know I follow you on Twitter. I know you're in the go get Jalen Carter camp. I'm a little not so much, but I get it. So he likes that. Let's see. And then Jakey the Stinky saying sprinting to the podium if Hajomas are in the 5th, right? Yeah, I like that, right? Let's see, the Jones and Whippler pairing would be very New England Monty seemingly thing to do, right? Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's true, right? So yeah, I think and then we've got some folks commenting, Avila can definitely play center, so can Lucia Smith. I'm totally good with that pairing and love Eli Ricks. Yeah, Avila can play center, that's why I liked him. He's versatile, and Brian's like, I didn't know that. Good to know. Yeah. So Lance, listen, there's some really nice players on here. I like it. Maybe there's a few positions I want to see. I probably, if it's me, I'm trading back to get a few more picks because then you can get all those positions. But I like a lot of the players you took here. So nice job. Thanks, Lance. Next up, Awesome Robert 20. He's only got the first 3 rounds here. He's got a trade for Quentin Nelson and a trade back and a lot of picks in there. I don't know that'd be I don't know how realistic that would be. I don't think you're getting that much in a trade back. A second round, future first, future second, and Quentin Nelson. I don't think you're going to get that much, but it's all right. Then you got Will Anderson. We like that, right? Getting him at number 4. DeJuan Jones, we talked about him a lot. Josh Downs is interesting. He's a smaller receiver, but he plays big. Definitely like that. Yeah, fleecing the Colts on this one. I mean, it wouldn't happen. That's not realistic, but if you pull that off, that'd be a heck of a trade. Hodges Tomlinson, like him, and then Voorhees, we've talked about him a bit. So yeah, I mean, there's some nice players on here, no doubt, but I don't think that trade's realistic, but you pull that off, you got my GM pick, right? Let's see. So yeah, Jakey Snakey saying, sorry if this has already been addressed, but why is Austin Fort pulling a Keim and not doing anything in free agency? We talked about that earlier on. The short answer is I'm okay with it. I think this team needs to build through the draft. They don't need to go spending a lot of money on top free agents. That's my opinion, but I'll go back and watch it. We talked about that a bit at the beginning. So yeah, MKT Bongo, thanks for being here. Hey, I made it for today, Mock Draft Monday. You think that THC height will be a problem for him on the next level? No, it's just he's going to be more of a slot, right? You can have guys that are a bit smaller in the slot. So he's not going to be a guy who's ideal to play outside, but I don't think it'll be a problem. You can, I think the slot corners, you can be okay with that. But thanks for that. Appreciate the question. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Keim would pull that trade off and use the picks from linebackers, right? Yeah, right. Just saying Quentin Wilson hasn't been the best guard in the league in a while. And fans might be happy with that haul. Just get him off the roster. I think he'll rebound. He's a talented player, but all right. Thank you, Austin Robert. Next up, we have HOA AZ 2020. He's got a trade, interesting, Hopkins and the 3rd. So he's this is interesting. Bundled Hopkins in the trade to move back to 6 and get a second, future 3rd. I think, unless I'm missing something, I don't think you got enough, to be honest. I think you get a lot more just for that pick, but I think just the trade back from 3 to 6, you get more players. But nonetheless, let's look at the players. Love getting Will Anderson. If he somehow made it to 6, that is a steal. And I don't think he goes that far, but boy, that would be something. Then Mazzy Smith, we like him. We've talked about that. Cody Mock, really interesting guy. Probably going to kick into guard because of his short arms, but he's a really nice player in the 3rd round. He's a little bit taller, but good player. Jackson Kirkland, a tall guard / tackle in round 3. I think he might go a little bit later, but maybe not. But maybe he could play tackle or guard. Then Dwayne McBride, got a running back there, got a cornerback a little bit later, Starling Thomas out of UAB. Then Chandler Zavala, we love him. McClendon Curtis is a guy they had a meeting with out of Chattanooga, so he's an interesting prospect. And then, traded for Luke Fortner. That's an interesting trade. So trade a couple of picks. So got a center there. So you mixed it up here. I'll definitely say that. Got some interesting things in here that we don't see all the time. So, I think you're going to get more for that trade. I don't, even especially if you bundle Hopkins in there, like getting Will Anderson Smith. Oh, that's a great combo. Yeah, I mean, you address the center through trade. So this is interesting. Mixed it up a little bit. I probably want to get. I don't know. I mean, I maybe want to get. I'd probably go with some. I don't know if I'd go with Jackson Kirtland in there. That's me, but yeah, some nice players in here though, especially Will Anderson and Smith like that. So, and Zavala, we know I love him around here. So awesome. Thank you for the mock. Next up, Fallen Angel 0312. I don't know if you're in here. Very active in Discord though. All right. We have Will Anderson at number 3, right? So you stayed put and took the guy that seems like the obvious pick there. DeJuan Jones, we talked about him a lot. Then a cornerback in round 2, Garrett Williams, nice player of Syracuse. Then you've got a trade with Hopkins, getting a 3rd, 4th, and a 6th for Hopkins and a 3rd, it looks like. So moving around a little bit. Avila, like that, right? We got Eli Ricks, we like him. Then you got a James Conner trade. That's interesting. I don't think Conner's getting moved, but you're mixing it up, so I appreciate that. Luke Whippler in round 3, so that's nice value to get him there. Then you got an Ertz trade. I don't think that's happening either, but again, like mixing it up, right? Dwayne McBride, we've seen him a lot tonight, so nice running back there. Getting another cornerback, Jacorian Bennett, so you got a couple cornerbacks there, which we might need, right? Depending what happens with Murphy. Then Bryce Ford Wheaton, an interesting receiver out of West Virginia. I haven't really looked at Ford Wheaton a lot, but I like getting a receiver there on day 3. Stetson Bennett, we've seen a lot. I like Ronnie Bell, interesting kind of depth receiver there. Tackle Luke Haggard, and then DJ Dale, kind of a nose tackle late on day 3. Really like getting. He's a guy I like taking there. So yeah, there's some really nice players in here. I like some of the things you did. Some interesting trades that I don't think are going to happen, but definitely like some of the players you took. So nice. Thank you for submitting this. Dominic, he's got to trade back with the Lions, getting their, let's see, their 6, and you got the, let's see, I don't see where the pick is. Is my brain not working? I wonder if it got cut off, but you got to trade, or you traded that 6th pick. Okay. You traded down twice. That's what happened. Okay. Traded down, then traded down again to get a boatload of picks. Devin Witherspoon at 18 is a steal. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's a steal. If he falls that far, that is awesome. The Nolan Smith at 24. So that's a nice combo. Osiris Torrance is a really nice guard. I don't think he's going to be a fit for this scheme. I think he's better in a power inside zone scheme, but I mean, they could make it work. He's a good player. And then we've got Adetomo Adebawore. Love him. We talked about him last week. Then you've got a Hopkins trade, right? With the Patriots. Then Matthew Bergeron's a nice tackle. I think in the second round, he's a guy that if I could see them, the Beecham signing makes this a little tricky. I think they might be more apt to wait till later on a tackle because they have rather than go on day 2, but who knows? But Bergeron's he's a guy I really like as a developmental tackle who could play right or left tackle potentially. So that's I like the player, no doubt. Luke Whippler, love that. Garrett Williams, get another cornerback there out of Syracuse. Jamie Robertson, safety, who the Cardinals had met with. So a lot of people have tied him with the Cardinals as someone they might be looking at, like some depth at safety. We love A.T. Perry. We love Kendre Miller. Getting to Jacqueline Roy, defensive interior out of LSU in round 4. So getting some depth on the trenches on the interior defensive line. Isaiah McGuire, we talked about him earlier. Kobe Turner, love him. Cam Johnson getting some linebacker depth, and Aiden O'Connell, quarterback out of Purdue. So you really shored up the trenches. Torrance, Bergeron, Whippler, and then on the defensive line, really short up. You got a lot of depth in the trenches and at cornerback. Yeah, I mean, I love the depth here. Maybe there's a few players I'm going a little bit different based on what I think in terms of scheme fit here and there. But I really like overall what you did, right? Really fixing the depth there. So nicely done, Dominic. Next up, Robert Moore is here. I know you were in here earlier. So Robert Moore didn't do a trade back. He stuck there. Got Will Anderson. Then in the second round, we got Manuel Forbes, right? So like that combo. Luke Whippler. I know you love Luke Whippler. I like him too, but your son is just so disappointed. But guess what? This is the time in Mock Draft Monday where, regardless of what Robert picks, we go ahead and we play, that's right, in its entirety, the John Michael Schmidt song. Are you ready? I hope you're ready. Here we go.
John Michael, he's our center Schmitz. His name's on my draft too. No matter what they say, this mock is A-okay. It's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
All right, there you go. So, Robert, I hope your son's watching and enjoying that. Okay, so I think these comments are for the last mock. Chris is digging that mock, this mock, just because I think we're looking at the, or is it the last one or is it this one? Oh, no, it is this one. Okay, this mock wins because of Bennett and Moody. I'm big on both of them. Digging this mock, it's the right approach. We need O-line. So I think maybe some comments about the last one for the O-line, but then the Stetson Bennett one on that. So we got Whippler, then we got the trade. We got A.T. Perry, love that. Moro Jomo, like that. McBride, a lot of people really like him. Love Pace Jr. Love getting Zavala in there. Bennett, Moody, getting the kicker there. Yeah, I like it. I mean, you hit all the keynotes. You did it without, you did the trade for Hopkins, but you did it without trading back. So that's nice to get, that many spots hit without doing a trade back from number 3. So yeah, Robert, I think this is a good mock. I think you did a really good job. I like it. I know some folks in the chat like it too. So nicely done, buddy. Appreciate that. Next up, Taj. Taj got a mock draft submitted with a trade back. So he traded back with the Lions, got a future second and both their first round picks. So he trades back to 6 and then lands Jalen Carter, right? So, like the value there, all legal issues aside, right? Then Nolan Smith at 18. That's a nice pairing, right? So you get those two that are used to playing together in Georgia, right? So, that's a nice pairing. I wonder if Nolan Smith might last that long. He had a heck of a combine, but I could also see him going before that. But that's a nice pairing. I really do like that. And then, of course,
it's got John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
So nice. So I like that. Those 3 are some nice players to help with the defense and the trenches. Then we got another trade to move around a little bit, get some picks. Keanu Benton, defensive interior from Wisconsin, who's had a nice kind of some nice stuff in terms of draft prep, like some of the bowl games or Senior Bowl and stuff like that. He's definitely a guy that people are looking at. So I like that. You got some really help the interior defensive line there. And got an edge rusher with some really great traits. So that's some really nice help with the trenches. Then we went cornerback in the third one, Garrett Williams, receiver Michael Wilson, who a lot of people like as kind of their day 2, day 3, right? And then we've got Kenny McIntosh, who we talked about before in the 4th round. I think you can get him later because he didn't run very well at the combine, but we've talked about him a lot. We like him as an interesting receiving back. Got another trade to get some picks. Then we got developmental edge and Jose Ramirez. That's kind of nice, interesting kind of pick there. We talked about him earlier. Then Aubrey Miller Jr. out of Jackson State. Got a linebacker there for some depth and or special teams. And kicker Jake Moody, and tackle Mark Evans II out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. I don't really know much about him, but a developmental tackle. So I like it. I like what you did there. Helping both of the trenches. Maybe if it's me, I want to see maybe a guard in there somewhere. But still nonetheless, getting John Michael Schmitz is really nice. Oh, this is you. Okay, awesome. So yeah, overall, I think this is a nice mock. There's always, maybe a little nitpicking here and there, but yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I like it. So there we go. And then real quick, I want to say hey to GW. Wow, thanks for being here. Hey, hello. And how goes it, JC and my fellow TCR fans as well? Appreciate you jumping in here, hanging out with us. GW Wow. So yeah, Grandmaster AT Perry's getting a lot of attention. You may need to create a song for him, right? Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that could be a full-time kind of thing, just creating songs for everyone, right? But yeah, Taj, level 7, I like it. I mean, I think there's some nice stuff in here. Maybe a few things I'd do a little differently, but yeah. Drew McWhorter likes it, right? He thinks it's a solid approach as well, right? Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with this. Like, we don't know anything about Mark Evans, but it's always nice to see new names and kind of expand what we know and kind of research these new players a little bit, right? So absolutely. We have Grimdark now. I don't know if I've seen Grimdark in here tonight, but very active in Discord. That's right. This was he spicy, right? He's taken all the quarterbacks except for the top, some of the top ones, right? We're getting all the quarterbacks and we're going to trade them away for whatever, right? Ransom them. So Grimdark, yes, that's right. That's okay. Anyway, so a little bit of something different here. All right, next up, Mr. Money Minetti, right? Which I think is in here. I think is that MKT Bongo, right? Is that you? I believe. Let me know if hope I'm not mistaken. All right. I sometimes have a hard time, like, you all have like different names in Discord than on here, and then on different names on Twitter. So if I ever get that wrong, forgive me. So you got to trade back, right, with the Eagles. So that's interesting to see. I think you may have said something like that's the idea. They're trading up for Will Anderson to try to become, really interesting defensively, right? All right. So we've got then Devin Witherspoon at 10, Osiris Torrance guard at 30, then DeJuan Jones. So you got some big, strong offensive linemen. A.T. Perry, right? We talked about him a lot. Then you've got to trade back to get some extra picks. Yes, this is you. Awesome. Okay. Yep. And then we've got Moro Ojomo. We like him. We talked about him a bit. And then Ivan Pace Jr., we love him. And then a guy I love, Olatimi, right? Olusegun Olatimi in the 4th round as a center. Love that value. Keaton Mitchell, an interesting running back out of East Carolina, so smaller school running back on day 3. Kobe Turner, love him. And then we've Jose Ramirez, we talked about him, and then big receiver Jake Bobo. So yeah, I mean, hit on a lot of the key positions. We got some players I know that I really like. Again, if it's me, Torrance and Jones are really good players, but again, I'm going with guys that are a little bit more not as big and a little more mobile for this offense system, but I get why people are going after them. They're really good players. But yeah, overall, I like what you did here. Love Turner, love Olatimi, Pace, obviously Perry. Good stuff. I think this, Drew McWhorter loves this one as well. A lot of those do like a lot of those dudes. Yeah. Grandizer gave us some insight about Mark Evans. He said he attended the same university that Terran Armstead attended, right? And he can play tackle, guard, and center, right? So he's part of the famous HBCU program. So interesting. Thanks for that insight. Yeah. All right. Bongo Minetti. I like it. All right. Next up, we have Breadstick Daddy, Austin, I believe, who was in here earlier. Are you still here, Austin? Let me know if you're still here. I know we're running a little long, but he's got a trade back with the Falcons, a team that I think I traded back with on mine. Devin Witherspoon, we like that, right? Will McDonald, a nice an edge rusher with some nice tools to build, kind of more of an outside edge rusher, so like that. And then pairing him with Adebawari, who's maybe a little inside-outside flexibility. Love that. I like those 3 picks. I really like those first 3 picks. Then we got Joe Tippmann. We were talking about him a little bit in Discord earlier. He's 6'6" center. I have shied away from the taller offensive linemen just because, and Austin's here, appreciate you hanging out with us. I've shied away from those taller offensive linemen because, Kyler's shorter and stuff. And I think if all things being equal, they might look at guys a little shorter. So he's taller, but he is a good fit for what they want to do. His scouting profile says he's the best pulling center in this draft. And, the wide zone does a lot of pulls or has their offensive linemen do a lot of pulling. And Austin mentioned that he was listening to someone, I think from the Athletic podcast, who talked about a certain type of blocking that they do. I forget if you want to mention that in the comments. I forget what you were saying, but that Tippmann's a good fit for some particular kind of blocking part of their blocking scheme. So this is a guy that I could absolutely see them taking, even though I'm leaning towards guys that aren't as tall. He still could be a really good fit. So it wouldn't shock me if he was the center. Pin pull. Thank you. Yeah. So it wouldn't shock me if they took him. And I think he could be a really nice fit. So I do like that. Nathaniel Dell, we talked about him a lot, love what he has. Yeah, we want a bigger receiver, but he's talented. So I don't hate that. Love Kobe Turner. We've talked about him a lot. McBride showed up a lot tonight. So he's a nice smaller school running back. Dorian Williams, linebacker, who's an interesting prospect out of Tulane. So I like him. And then Puka Nakua. So you got the big and small receiver. So yeah, you hit center, you hit defensive interior, you got edge, core. I mean, I really like what you did here. Maybe, again, perfect world, maybe I'd want a guard in there somewhere. But you hit all the key things we're looking for. I like it. Good job, Austin. I think this is a nice mock. Yeah. Like Drew saying McDonald and Edward would be really fun pairing. I agree, right? MKT Bongo saying about Tipman, he's massive, but athleticism he shows is amazing. Yeah. So that's a guy I'm warming up to for the Cardinals. All right. Clue, thank you for your mock draft, right? Real quick, Austin saying Dorian Williams, the running back, Dorian Williams, the linebacker, sorry, would be perfect in Ganna's scheme. Yeah, okay, nice. All right. This is interesting. We got a trade from 3 all the way back to 16, getting Montez Sweat from the Commanders, a very athletic edge rusher who ran like a crazy good 40 at the combine when he was a rookie coming out, or when he was a prospect coming out. And then a pick 16, a second and a third round pick in the future, 1 and a 6. So there's a major haul to move back, but when you move back like that takes a lot, right? So got to trade back real quick. No buts about it. Man, y'all still vibing this late? Love it. Yeah, dude, we nerd out here. Now we might have half as many people hanging out as there were earlier in the night, but this is where the diehards hang out, the real draft nerds, right? Where we really kind of dig in. So you got to trade back, got an edge rusher veteran in Montez Sweat, and then Nolan Smith. So you're really, adding some edge rush there, right? Both veterans and young. So like that. And then Dwan Jones, we talked about him getting that right tackle. Massey Smith, love that. Got another trade to add some picks. Joe Tipman, we just got to talking about him. Then we have a Hopkins trade for that second round pick. DJ Turner, an interesting cornerback who is going to probably move up the draft board some. He ran the fastest 40-yard dash time for any cornerback at the combine, I believe. So he's an interesting guy who I think we'll see start moving up. Yeah. So you think that's someone that Monty would like? Super smart pick. Yeah. Zach Harrison is kind of a bigger edge, so he'd be an interesting, nice developmental fit for this system. Hodges Thomason, we talked about him like that. Israel Abanikanda, we talked about him earlier. Really good fit for the wide zone running scheme. So I like that pick. Got another trade to move around a little bit. Moro Ujoma, we love that. Antonio Mafia, again, love him. Maybe not the best scheme fit, but he's a good player if you get him here late. I'm not complaining. And got some depth at tight end, Zach Kuntz. So yeah, I think this is overall a nice mock. I mean, the interesting trade you threw in there, to mix things up. Drew, you like Zach Harrison a lot. Moore's Legacy, I think the further we trade back, the more capital that's the way it works, right? So trading back that far, you're going to get a lot, right? For sure. So yeah, I like what you did here. You hit the positions we need. I don't know, maybe I want a receiver in there somewhere if I'm nitpicking, right? But like what you did. Nicely done. Nate Taylor got a mock in here. He's got to trade back to 8 and still getting Will Anderson. That is crazy. Don't see that happening in real life, but if it did, that would be a steal. So nicely done there. Again, probably not realistic, but listen, if that somehow happened, I'd be really happy. Dwan Jones, we talked about him a lot. So then you got another trade around to get some extra draft capital. And then Luke Whippler, we love that. Moro Jomo, you're really doing the trades here, working the trades. Interesting. And then Kobe Turner, love that. Chandler Zaval, one of my favorite players in this draft. Got a cornerback a little bit later, Ja'Cory Bennett in round 6. Eric Gray, got the halfback there. Got a quarterback, Turk, and then a kicker, Smith. I don't even know how to pronounce that. And then, there's some extra trades in here for players. There's wide receiver, whoever Brown is, from Not sure who that is. And then Hurst from, not sure who that tackle, Jay Hurst. So there's some players in there. Okay. This is interesting. And you definitely got a lot of trades in there. There's some players I like in here. Probably, okay. I'm not sure who that receiver is. I have to look at that, but Diami Brown. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, he was a rookie out of North Carolina. Okay. So I haven't looked at what Diami Brown's done in the NFL, but okay. What I will say that I think is interesting about this one, that you've got a lot of your trades get future draft picks, and I think I've talked about this before, but with Monty Ossenfort, he not having his whole process in place this year, there's part of me that wonders if he's going to opt to maybe try to get some extra picks next year, like do some trade back, takes draft players this year, but not take them with picks as not as many premium picks, trade back, get picks in the future so that next year, when he's had a chance to have a full year to have his process in place and has all the information he normally like to have for his draft to make his picks, he has it then. And this year's maybe he doesn't have all the information he's used to with the way that the Patriots do things. So, I wonder about that. I think that's kind of interesting. So, all right. Real quick, Josh, you've got a question. If D-Hop believes y'all have a receiver after 5 or taller than 5'9", seems like something to target in the late round. Perhaps I'm missing something. No, you're right. Like, there's a couple guys that we have that we might bring back, or at least one guy, Antoine Wesley, who might be back, he might not be back. It's yet to be determined. But they're only receiving threats that are taller, are their tight ends. So I will say this mock draft doesn't have that, but a lot of the mock drafts you see, we get a taller receiver somewhere on day 2 or 3. A.T. Perry. In fact, the guy I profiled today, Puka Nakua, is a guy that was interesting. And so, yes, we definitely look at taller receivers a little bit later. So, yeah. All right, cool. A lot of day 3 picks. This coaching staff has their work cut out, developing a lot of players. Love it, right? Okay. This is you. Okay. Awesome. So, yeah, so it's interesting. You mix it up for sure. So there's definitely some players to like there, though. All right. Connects 3322, Matthew Druitt. I don't think I've seen Matthew in the chat tonight, but if you're there, say hi. He's got a trade back to 4. We love that, right? If you can pull that off, and then still gets Will Anderson. So that's a huge win right there. Adetomiwa Adebawore, we love him, right? Profiled him last week, so love that. Then got him in the second round, and then Tyreek Stevenson, a nice cornerback there. So that is a nice start. And then of course,
John Michael, he's our center Schmitz.
JMS, we love that, right? So in the second round, you've got the Hopkins trade in there with the Patriots, and then we got Keanu Benton, so we got some interior defensive line help there. Kendra Miller, love that. Nathaniel Dell, like him as a player. Then Kobe Turner, so we've got some more interior line help, right? Chandler Zaval, Antonio Mafi, just a couple really nice offensive linemen. Then Ventrell Miller. So yeah, there's a lot of nice picks here. Again, maybe we like a taller receiver somewhere, but you hit all the notes for the most part that we're looking for. I like what you did here, especially those first 4 picks are nice. Well, hell, Benton and Miller. Yeah. I like this, Matthew. I think this is a very nice mock. Very well done. Erva 8, Moore's Legacy / that's who he is tonight. Moore's Legacy is in here. So he's got a big trade back. This trade isn't realistic, right? You've got real quick. Oh, Buzz is saying for Bucks is W. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. They're both former UNC playing. Just some love since I didn't make the tournament. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so we're saying getting some UNC players. Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right, nice. All right, so next up though, okay, sorry, Moore's Legacy. Trading Hopkins to the Cowboys, trading the 3rd and Hopkins for CeeDee Lamb, and then a whole bunch of their first round pick, and then a whole bunch of picks, including future first. I mean, yeah, Monty can learn if you need to do from me. Seems legit. So you understand. Yeah. So you know this isn't realistic, but you're having fun. Okay. Clyde, but love Kalijah Cansey at pick 26. That is nice value there, I think. So love that. Then Ojulari, we talked about him. Love that. Whippler, Carl Brooks, like that combo. Hodges Tomlinson, Kobe Turner, Zavala, Dorian Williams. There's some nice players. And then we got a quarterback, O'Connell, in the 5th round. Davis Allen, tight end out of Clemson in the 6th round, getting some depth there. Yeah, Jerry Jones would be stupid enough, right? Oh man, yeah. This is inspired by the Panthers Bears trade. There you go. All right. Yeah, that's okay. There we go. Yes. You definitely do trade crazy. Yeah, huge trade. Okay, so we're all having, and listen, I like having fun with that. So got like some depth attack tight end though. Trevor Reed's a guy, and Caleb Chandler, a couple guys I think are some I profiled them on my video about offensive line targets for the Cardinals as some day 3 guys. Michael Turk, and we've got cornerback D Holmes from the Giants. Okay, so we got a trade of a player and some picks, and Tavian Thomas, a halfback out of Utah. So yeah, listen, I had fun with the trade, but like obviously I love Cansey, Ojulari, Whippler, Brooks, like a lot of these players. So I'd probably go with a different running back if it's me. I'm not real big on Thomas, but I mean maybe you know, I could be wrong, right? I'm probably going a little earlier with running back, but yeah, favorite pick is the puncher, right? Michael Turk, right? Are there only 5 videos? There are 5 likes on this video. Oh my goodness, come on! There were like 60 people in here. Please like the video if that's really all there is. This makes me a little sad. All right, thank you though, fun Mark. Drew, we finally get to yours, dude. You've been here all night too. So all right, got the trade back with the Colts. Nice. Yeah, what's up with that? Are there 25 likes? If there's 25, maybe that's a little better, but still. All right. Trade back, Will Anderson, right? We love getting that trade back and still getting him. Then we've got Osiris Torrance. We talked about him in the first round. He's a good player. I'm going different direction if it's me because of scheme fit, but still good player, no doubt. Could work. You could make him work, right? It's just, I think if I'm going that high, I want to go someone who's a better fit that early, but that's me. Hopkins trade, right? That's the pick that got you that pick, right? Then we got Terry Stevenson, a cornerback. We haven't talked about a lot, but it's a nice corner in the 2nd round. Love that, right? Then we got Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of that 3rd down back. So nice player, you know, in the 2nd round. Whippler, we love that. Mingo, yeah, a lot of people like Mingo. Yeah, Josh likes Mingo, right? W for that. Okay, thanks. It's up to 20. Okay, there we go. The refreshing thing, that probably helps. Okay. Jacob Slade, defensive interior lineman out of Michigan. I need to look at him a little bit more, but you know, always like in some depth there. Ventrell Miller, linebacker, we've seen him before. Then Caleb Chandler, like him, right? That's an interesting guard prospect. I think could be a good fit. So yeah, I mean, you got all the things we're looking for. Got edge, got corners, guard, center, receiver, some defensive interior line help. You know, I think now with what's happened, we might see more. I think we might see more defensive interior, you know, with Zach Allen gone. But I like what you did here overall, though. Yeah, nicely done, Drew. So you mentioned Mingo's contested catches are nasty, right? Why is he ranked in F? PFF doesn't like where you took him. He thinks you took him too early. That's why they do it based on. I think they're great. I'm not sure exactly their grades, but I think it's a combination of positional need, how they've identified it, and then value in terms of where you took them based on their ranking. Like you took him at 96, and PFF has him as their 177th prospect. So they think you took him too early. That's so you're not grading that enough. I think he's a nice player. I do think you can probably get him a little later than that, but we'll see. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he does go in the 3rd round. So, but yeah, Drew, I like it, dude. Nice mock. Here we are. 2 hours and 38 minutes. Whoo! This has been a marathon, folks. I appreciate y'all hanging out. The 34 of you that made it this far. You all are the real ones, right? Who hung out this long. So a lot of fun. I think Josh, do we have you? Josh who's in the chat is going to be joining us on Mock Draft Monday coming up sometime soon. Let's see. Who is it? In 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, 2 weeks. We're going to have you joining us, right? So let's see. Yeah, dang, still going. And we're wrapping up, right? But yeah, Doc's Cards, thanks for popping back in here. Let's see. Drew saying, yeah, there were like 5 receivers on the board ahead. Just my guy, and there was too big a gap to get him later. Gotcha. Yeah. Give you props, Cards needs height, right? Yeah, right. No pain, no gain. Fun tonight. Yes. So listen, thank you all for hanging out. It's been a long night, but I appreciate hanging out with me. Yeah, and thank you. Appreciate all the birthday wishes. Right. It was good night hanging out with you guys, getting to talk Cardinals football. So and we'll see Josh and Chris in 2 weeks on here. So thank you again, everyone. Y'all have a great night. We're going to get out of here. Yes, it was an epic Mock Draft Monday. It was a marathon. So I'm going to get the shout outs to the channel members up. We'll do our theme song on the way out. And if you want to support the channel as a channel member, there's a link on the channel where how to do that. Definitely always appreciate the support. But thank you all. We'll see you next time. Oh, and I have some interviews lined up. Maybe one this week that might be dropped as a video. So keep your eye out for some videos that might be coming down the road. So just a little teaser there. So, all right, guys, thank you. See y'all later. Peace.